Hello and welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon. Been away for a little bit. Sorry about that, but we're here today. In fact, we got a couple of shows on tap today. It is often requested here on the channel by a variety of different subscribers and whatnot to have a call-in show at time to time here as we can. I figure right now is probably as good a time as any because of the fact that we are definitely into the depths of the off season. It doesn't get any deeper than this. We're just about to turn the corner on into training camp. So I did think this was also probably a good time to take a little bit of a measure of pulse of the fan base. Are you negative? You look at this team and go, boy, I don't think this team's going to be able to get it done this year. It's going to be a tough season. How do we get through this? Or maybe you've got, a little more optimism on your side. Maybe you'll feel they're mediocre, but we're just going to kind of keep it open today to the discussion. Kind of any topic is there and on point. I'm going to go ahead and post the link there into the chat. So if you want to join up, I'll try to bring people on. I am going to try to get as many folks as I can. We do have a hard out in a couple of hours here with Brendan because I'll be doing a show with him as well later on this evening. So we're going to kind of fit it into that time period. There hasn't really been any Seahawks news of note, in my opinion. We haven't heard anything from the DK Metcalf contract negotiations. All is still silent on that front of things. Terry McLaurin of the Washington football team has signed an extension there. He did a 3-year deal there with some significant money. So there's definitely something to be said in respect of this deal is now the next to come up. There aren't any really other receivers I can think out there that is waiting to get paid unless you count Chase Claypool. So hopefully he will be that next guy up. Hopefully this deal with McLaurin better cements this in. I do think that the time is of the essence here with Schneider getting this deal done. I kind of surprised it's taken as long as it has. But I hopefully we'll just kind of land on accepting that this does come through when it's going to come through. The only other bit of news on tap here, of course, has been that we've gotten the Baker rumors are again festering out of control here over and over as we get people from a variety of different weird accounts, Twitter accounts of people from other teams and other spots saying, oh, a deal's absolutely imminent. It's coming down the track. It's all said but done. Let's see. We'll see. On this one, I've heard it's a done deal now for months on end. And I still wonder now why Seattle would suddenly show interest in him when they had many different other times they could have jumped into this fray at any moment to go out there and pluck Baker. But they are nonetheless, we are hearing these rumors, so we've got to at least discuss it as far as it is bubbling out there. But we'll see where it goes with that. We'll see where it goes. I'm still not really big on bringing him in here, and I'm absolutely hugely against signing him to a contract extension if you do make a trade for him. Nonetheless, it could be a piece of breaking news that comes down the track. Other than those other two items, we don't really have anything going on per se right now. So I'm going to put this to the floor, stop yapping away, and get this with you guys. So thank you for jumping on in. If you do like what listening to, please today hit that like button. And as well as I've got a small contingent of folks that don't necessarily like the call-in shows. I hear you out there. I've seen a couple of those comments there too. This is just going to be a part of this channel to a degree, not necessarily on the regular, but from time to time we do it. So if it's not your flavor this time, we'll bring you back up on the normal content here as we push into this upcoming Sunday. First up on the stream, we got Ethan's Tech World. My man, how you doing? Looks like we got you muted, brother.
You're right.
How you doing?
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good. Good to see you as well. All right. There we go.
What's new in your world as far as from the Seahawks standpoint goes?
Well, still really happy with the draft. And it doesn't really change too much of how I think we're going to necessarily do this year, but very excited about the coming years.
Did you have you felt like they take the right steps this offseason? Is there anything you've been against in their approach?
Not announcing Damian Lewis back at right guard.
that does continue to sit over the top of things, does it not?
Yeah.
I
don't like that.
What about the Russ deal? Do you feel like we got the most we could have on that?
Yeah. And I'm not really looking back on it anymore.
No, there's certainly still a lot of Seahawks fans still very wrapped up in what's going on with Russ. I've tried for the most part. It comes up from time to time as a topic on the channel, but overall, best of luck to you in Denver. Not this season, but the next year, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, and you often point out that since the salary cap is just going to continue to rise, that especially with quarterbacks, even if you're not the A-list type quarterback, you're still going to get that huge contract,
Yeah.
right? Or if you don't get that contract, you're probably not going to get that contract at all, because we see, Lamar not getting a contract, or Kyler Murray. So,
Well, I think it's definitely it's evidence of the fact that the landscape of the NFL as far as teams is that I think they're trying to say, hey, there's a bit of pushback from their side of it, going, well, wait, we've seen quarterbacks who've gotten paid after their third year of, quote, earning that deal after your third season, and those deals didn't work out too well for those teams after they did it. Eagles and the Rams being two notable teams that have gone down this trek, and I'm landing further and further. I don't know where you stand, but I do land further and further on really moving away from kind of almost outside of having a generational talent at the quarterback position, not spending the money on that guy, going to the model. I mean, I'm kind of laser scoping in right now on this model of you set up the team, you bring in the quarterback, but the quarterback you're bringing in has got to be then ready to go, because you're trying to take advantage of now rather than looking at, we've got our guy for the next 10 to 15 years, you got your next guy for 5 years. What are you going to do with him in that time frame? And I'm getting more kind of into that lane. How about yourself?
I don't know if I'm there yet, just because it's not. I don't know. I think about that more with running backs, just because they're used so much. But then after maybe even 3 years or 4 years, they're like Christian
Shot.
McCaffrey. He was just running to the ground, and now he's sort of made of glass. I don't know if I'm there yet with quarterbacks, especially because they do most of the time have not so much, but a year or two of development. And then once they get to their third year, then they're sort of where they want to be. So I don't know if we can expect right out of college that most of these quarterbacks in these drafts will have those players that are ready to go.
It's a good point. I mean, it's to me the hill that you have to overcome there. Definitely. I think there's certain things you can set the stage for with it if you do it. If you have a team, a lot of it then becomes dependent on what kind of team do you have built up around it. Carson Wentz, I believe, got his team by, I think it was year 2 or 3 there. He was an MVP candidate, and there's been a couple of other guys that Mahomes was in his second year. Now Mahomes is an exception. I don't want to try to say that that's a comparison point, because you're not going to go find the next Mahomes. He certainly is probably the quarterback of this generation for what's going on right now. But that's where you do have to land, to me, is if you have that team built up, if you've invested in the offensive line, I think you can, that's where the ramping of that up occurs to me, is that you then are allowing that to happen because of that. Sorry, I'm getting a text from Brendan here. So, okay. So that's, you're right on. This is a hill right now. And for me, I don't look at this as where the league is right now, to me, because you're right. It's not here. I mean, there's the development cycle. There's that little bit of that going on. To me, it's where the league's going, and that you have these quarterbacks more pro ready. Brendan's talked about how in this next few years, we might see a gluttony of young quarterbacks coming up who are very skillful from the jump. They haven't been in Pee Wee just handing the ball up all the way till their college year, where now they start to play spread concepts. They've been playing in these spreads going all the way back, and it's unique to their generation. Whereas my generation, they were still running wing T back in my high school days at some of these places, and so this has been, I'm trying to, and I could be wrong on it, but it's where I look at where we're going, where, man, there's a smart team to maybe take advantage of that. If they can, you got to get a lot of the things right then to overcome it. Because you're right. At the end of the day, a great quarterback can carry you through and overcome a lot of bad. And you can have a lot of great that can't overcome necessarily then a bad quarterback. It doesn't necessarily work inversely. You are going to need a guy who can do something, but this is, again, why we come back to me with Levis and him running the Rams offense and all of that, why I land so hard in that spot too, because I think he is ready versus some of the other guys, like you said, like some of the quarterbacks that's coming in this draft who will be really talented guys, will be worthy of first round selection. But I don't know.
Yeah. Like with Levis, he's also, well, even though he is probably the most pro ready, He's also 24.
He'll be 24 at the.
24?
I think he'll be 24 at the draft.
Yeah, and that's a good couple years older than the other ones. So to take somebody like that, even though you're not necessarily going to be a bad quarterback when you're ready to get your big contract, unlike you might not be a great running back anymore when you're ready to get your contract. I think in order to take somebody like that, the rest of the team needs to be pretty dang close to, and I think by the approach that we're taking, it seems like we're hoping that will happen.
I agree. I think that because that's the blueprint that worked for them. I mean, we talk about Russell got there in his third year and won a Super Bowl. And yeah, he had a legendary defense doing. Again, there's so much you're going to have to do on the other side to make this work. But it's also impactful, right? Because you have to look at what the next quarterback you're bringing in is, because that impacts this. Like Russell Wilson was different from other quarterbacks in that draft, not just by his skill set, but by his readiness, having played in a couple of college systems, having had that kind of mind that could, ramp up a little bit faster maybe than some of the other quarterbacks coming out in those drafts. And I think wouldn't you say in this case, it would almost, unlike other prospects, if you're thinking about it from my lens of we're just looking at through this 5-year stretch, we're going to hold this guy, maybe having a guy that's 24 at the quarterback position is actually kind of in his favor at that point. I don't have that young guy, that's where I have to sit here and wait on, and who's really nowhere near ready. I mean, you're hearing reports from the kid who came out of Liberty. He's third string on the depth chart right now at Tennessee. Yeah. How long is that going to take him? Yeah. Oh, thank God. And that's one of the reasons I spoke to, is that this does not fit the blueprint. You're not in the same realm of where you were before, because of the fact of you're grabbing a guy now that you're going to have to wait a couple of years to get through that thing. And then you still don't know what you have at that point. And that's the problem with, again, hitching yourself to the old school model of all about that quarterback, is then it all becomes about that quarterback. You live and die then by this guy's rise versus live and die by the team, and then let the quarterback fit within that, especially if you structure things to make it a little easier on him. Do you have a quarterback you're liking in the upcoming draft so far?
Well, I mean, yeah, I like I like the three that everyone's sort of naming, the main ones, but
give me one. You got to give me one off the top.
Yeah,
I'm not going to hold you
Levis.
to it.
I like Levis.
Okay.
You really get the what's his name from the Bills. The Bills.
Josh Allen.
Yeah, you really get that vibe from him. But in addition to what I said about, the team better be ready if they want to take somebody like that, that really applies to, you better be ready to take any quarterback, or the team better be ready to take the quarterback by then. But also, like somebody like Mahomes is not only an outlier for what you mentioned, but again, the team was so ready to bring in a quarterback by then. They had the receivers, they had the offensive line, so I don't know.
That's why I was also trying to say the Wentz situation, though, because Wentz came into a very similar situation, and if he didn't at the very end of the season, in like 2 games before the season ended, tear his ACL, he's probably has a very good chance to win the MVP in that season. And as we've seen with Wentz ain't that great. Right. In retrospect, It wasn't like we had a guy that was going to be a perennial MVP candidate. What it is that he had a stacked offensive line. He had a fantastic defense. And again, Russell Wilson, and Russell, it was third year or by the time he got to the Super Bowl. But that year, 2012, with a break in that Atlanta game, if Chris Clemens doesn't tear his ACL in Washington the week before, and you actually can generate pass rush against Matt Ryan, you very well are going into San Francisco that next week, and you might go and get yourself that Super Bowl that year. And I'll take our chances against the Ravens in that Super Bowl. So I think that though it's not like a normal thing you see all the time with these young quarterbacks that pop through, I do think it's something that you can try to aspire towards. I just think it's a better place to aspire towards rather than looking for that magical quarterback who will be the salve to all of your wounds. And again through the lens of, you're going to deal with sooner or later than having to pay that guy. And then like the Dak Prescott situation in Dallas is that contract starts to hit them and fully come to bloom. It's just starting to kind of impact this year, but it's really going to hit them next year. And watch what that does to their roster. Watch how many guys they have to dial back, say nothing of the impending of having to sign Lamb and Micah Parsons here in a couple of years.
And they've already not been able to bring back a couple of those defensive players.
Yeah, Randy Gregory, and good point. So it's been
so
down this road.
You really need to hit that sweet spot of our team is ready to bring in the quarterback while also it all has to be really perfectly timed. That's why it's difficult to win a Super Bowl because
it's 32 other teams trying to do the same thing too, and they're not all idiots. So,
and then if you don't get it within that 4 years, it becomes, as you pointed out, we haven't seen a team win the Super Bowl with a quarterback getting paid or taking that percentage of the team's salary.
Yeah, I mean, can you see why I sort of try to? It's something you shouldn't maybe think. A lot of people probably aren't anticipating in the quarterback they're looking to get in the draft. That's 3 years down the line. That's 4 years on. But my point on it is it's not 5 years down the line. People squawk about the fact you get that 5th year to utilize on those first round picks. But those guys don't just sit there and say, I'll wait on my money. I mean, some guys like Lamar might, but it's more often than not, they're going to do what Kyler Murray did, which is the start of this offseason, scrub his social media account and say, you need to pay me right now instantaneously. And so, okay, I only get you those 3 years. Then I'm in the hopper of having to pay you top of the market money. This doesn't seem to be like that seems to be a less feasible model to me than trying to take that little bit of the near outlier situation of building the rest of the team and then, bring that quarterback. Because to me, at least when I have the team, if I don't have that quarterback that I drafted that's good, I now have a door open to, well, what if there's a veteran who becomes available on the market, who could handle themselves behind a complete team, that's like what happened with Stafford, where Stafford's sitting out there languishing on Detroit. Everybody's like, he's the stat pad for goes to the Rams, and it's a little bit of a different situation. So you're also you marry yourself to the quarterback. You got to make the decision after year 3. Then you're married back into him for another 3-4 years after that. And boy, you could get yourself stuck.
I mean, well, the teams really have the most leverage and power over the players' contracts, right? Because you can't really hold out, or else you're gonna have to pay that fine every day.
Kind of. We've got the hold-ins, and it does seem like, what I guess I would say this to you. What's an example we have of a player who wants to get paid of recent note in the last 2 years, even, who's going to say, I want to get paid, and then that team didn't pay him and held him into the contract, and then he's like, well, I can't hold out. Gosh darn it. And then that situation just played out. I can't think of it happening. It's probably happened in the background quietly within organizations, but not with the public deal of, we saw last year, Quandre Diggs comes in, he wants money. There's a hold in, they let him get his insurance policy. He comes back. Dwayne Brown comes in, holds in, wants his insurance policy, gets it, then bop. So there are workarounds to it, but I just don't think you've got that ability to really hold that acme weight over the top of the people of, if you don't come in, we're going to just hit you with these fines. Players are going to find a way, I feel like, a little bit to get their money.
I mean, that just makes me wonder, because what exactly is stopping the team from just saying, to the quarterback, we have you for 5 years because we got you in the first round. Well, and then we'll pay you in the 5th year. So you don't have a choice.
I wonder that as well. I have to think that it's probably not a good look for the organization. You have to think about the future business you do along with the current business you do. And if you're known for being one of those few teams that's going to be player, quote unquote, unfriendly, then that's going to get you in a place. My opinion on this, Ethan, is that really being player friendly doesn't do you all that much good either, right? Has us being super player friendly to all these guys and paying guys out gotten us free agents here at a discount? I haven't seen it. Has it made guys who have left here been really like, this organization's yay? We've seen a lot of bitterness on the door walking out of guys, even well-paid guys that had made multiple contracts leaving. It's part of why I say, really, if I was a person, I'd be more open to what Rep Schmep. At the end of the day, money talks. And if I can pay a guy more than the guy next to me, he's going to come to our team regardless of what we've done in the past. And if we've got to make a decision that's best of this franchise, we're going to make it. And we're not going to apologize for that. And that's one of the reasons why the Patriots have been where they've been the last, 20 years, and how many Super Bowls they've stacked up, because they've been cold-blooded and taking that approach at every turn. And it hasn't, they had Brady, but they had other parts to that too. That team wasn't just Brady either through that time period. They had to restock and re-put it back in, together. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, Ethan. I think it's real interesting football theory on what you think, the right, because the quarterbacks are becoming more valuable. And the analytic people tell us, they're not even being paid enough yet. They haven't even been paid up to where they should be paid versus their impact, right? They'll tell us that. And you're like, really? $60 million a year? Still not being paid enough? But that's the case. That's the case. We could get this DK deal done, man.
Yeah. I have his jersey right over here. Oh, there that's my new Julio.
Hell yeah. That's a good jersey.
DK is just over to it. I'm not worried about it, but sort of wonder why it's taking a little too long.
I think again, Schneider was hoping to get he was just hoping to get the coupon discount, right? He'd been coupon clipping all off season. He's like, DK, I've got coupons, and DK is like, yeah, no.
Maybe because very different positions, but maybe because he's like, oh, I got my way with Jamal. Not
kind of
20 million nonsense that a lot of people were thinking, but I don't know, maybe.
I mean, he might be thinking, even that though, I'm going, but you reset the market on safeties on the money you paid Jamal, and Jamal going for 20 million was always a pipe dream because of the fact it's the next guy paid up by about 500 a million, right? Whoever the next guy is who's due to be paid up usually gets that much, whereas Jamal was going to make 4 million more than what the last guy made per year on average. So that wasn't it. And you still paid him the record breaking deal, whereas DK is not going to make a record breaking deal here. There's no team out there that would pay him at this point 30 million. Somebody might pay him 26, 27 maybe, but 30 million is, I think even at 27, you're getting a little bit in the high range, but it'll get done, man. It's working its way through the bend. They'll give him a little bit more guaranteed and grease the wheels and get it off.
I mean, he's really going to be the leader of the offense, especially.
He is, man. And he's still young, 24. And even if you got to wait a couple years to be back to being an elite team, he's on his way, and he'll be just in his prime at that point, ready to go still. So I'm hopeful that they get this done. They'll probably get it done. They just got to, I'm sure it's just a couple $1 million difference at this point. They want to pay him. All indications have been that they want to pay him.
Yeah.
Well, anything else? Sorry, go ahead.
They better pay him because I already have to put my Russell jersey in the back of the closet. I don't want to have to put my DK jersey in the back of the closet.
I know. Well, what about those deals? If they had Bobby and Russell and then DK, man, it'd be just an offseason of retiring jerseys. You got a mausoleum you're creating in one offseason off just the trades and retirements alone. I agree. It's a lot to ask of the fan base at this point, too, that you pass out 2 Hall of Famers out, then you're going to one of the best young dynamic talents you have out, and you're selling them to that on that way. At the same time, you're saying, no, we want to be competitive this season. So just tell us, really, do you at that point? No, you're trying to build to the future. You're trying to, turn this in another direction. So I don't know on that. But we'll see. Let's get a super dono here. We got to get your reaction on this one. Logan McSwain with a $2 donation. Thank you, Logan. Sorry, it took me a second there. He says, KJ Jefferson has my eye. He's a more accurate Cam. You like KJ?
Oh, I remember you and Brendan talking about him a little bit.
Yeah, he's he's a great talent, and he's number 3 on my Logan. It always sounds like I'm throwing shade at the guy, so I always want to make sure I preload this up. He's 3rd on my quarterback list right now, just behind Stroud, so he's number 3. He might be slightly more accurate than Cam. I don't know if I fully get to that spot of things because mechanically he has the same issues Cam did, where his lower half doesn't talk to his upper half. They're in complete disjointed conjunction. So one's doing one thing, the other thing's doing something else. And he's very much an arm thrower at times, where he's got a very powerful arm like Cam did to make that throw. But you get a lot of those balls that then tend to sail a little bit because the base isn't in the place that it needs to be. He can clean up that footwork, but Cam never cleaned it up. So it's worth note on that. My other big issue with that, Logan, is me and Ethan are talking about this, is we want the pro-ready quarterback. We want the guy who can come in, get into this offense, and be ready to hit it. I think any guy that you bring in on a spread formation type offense is going to, at that point, is going to, at that point, need to have a long period of transition to go into this Rams type offense, going under center, more of now having to do the play action game and going through multiple reads, as opposed to the one read, look for your guy. If he's not there, then you run out the back door of the pocket, which if you watch KJ Jefferson's tape, there's a lot of that on his tape of what I've seen. It looks just like Cam, not just the number one and the towel hanging off of him, but that way he runs that offense. Read option, run. Read option, throw. It's that same like dun 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 dun. It's like a drum roll that just stays the same through the whole song. There's no roll part. It's just always the same kind of thing. And this offense has got to be a little bit more to me of you having stuff structured and guys being able to make certain types of throws in certain types of ways. And again, going through a times progression reads as well. But he is good. And he's a guy that's third on my list. He could easily vault to number one if he balls out this year. That's the most important part about this, is I like to finally say on this, is like the final year tape is the most important tape here, Logan. So it's all about what they show us this year, more than even anything they've done prior, by like 85%, I would estimate. That's an arbitrary number, but I think it's one that fits. Your final year tape in college is what's going to determine it. If he comes up and takes a step forward with the mechanics, then certainly I ain't going to have no problem with it. We are going to probably have to adjust our offense at that point and move away from Waldron, though, if we do. If we want to have him hitting the ground running, because then you're just going to want him to run the read option stuff from day one and, have that go.
So I'll be perfectly honest. I'm not an avid college football viewer, but I think I will be more as I'm going to college this year. I'm starting college. So I don't know too much about all of these guys, but I tend to know more once the draft is on the horizon. So,
it's not and it's hard. College football has gotten harder to watch. So that's the other thing with that, is it's not the sport it was before, being able to, it's games of a lot of spread, a lot of not what it looks like on Sunday, a lot of patty cake in pass protection. But the one thing I'd recommend doing is, you look at these YouTube, sometimes you can just type in, bop offense, Florida offense. Let me watch Anthony Richardson. And some guy has cut up just the offensive plays of that game, which is in 12 minutes, you can watch every throw of a guy off of a game. I mean, I can almost go through a full prospect seasons of tape in like 2 hours at that point. And it makes it a lot more efficient. You get a lot more of a quicker read, especially in and out. But I'm with you. I'm going to be watching a lot more this year than I've ever watched in probably like 20 years, because we know one of these quarterbacks is probably going to be our next guy.
Yeah. So the read option in general isn't really my favorite thing, but at the end, because it seems very limited.
Well, I think it's days gone too, right? The NFL to me it's like spinning with the evolution constantly, and it worked for Cam in 2015 when he had an MVP. Does that same offense work in 2022 now, or has the NFL evolved to sort of take that away?
Right. Yeah, and then also, no matter who we pick, I think the most important thing is that we pick somebody who will be a great fit in Waldron's offense. Because you can say, oh, that guy over there looks really great, but he's not a fit here.
Right.
So what would that do?
That's right.
Just be a mess.
Well, it's that, or you move on from Waldron at that point and install your simplified. We want a college offense to let this young player be able to come in and get the most, wring the most out of him from the jump. Which again, I'm not anti that. At the end of the day, if they want to go that route, it's a little silly to me that you hire a coach like Waldron and then you don't give him offensive linemen that fit his scheme, and then you move on from the quarterback after 1 year, and then after 2 years, with not having a prime quarterback to work with, you're like, oh, it hasn't worked with you. That to me seems a little silly in their approach. But if they feel like the best approach is going, they love KJ that much, they're like, KJ is just that guy, and we want to do this for him, I can sign off on it. I'll still support it at that point if he's that type of talent.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I'm saying this without having known too much about him, so. But that would be a little silly, and it wouldn't seem very productive in building this offense. Like, it's one way, but then we really like this guy, so now we have to sort of take a step back to change it a little bit more, and then that could mean one less year of what you want out of your rookie quarterback.
Right. Versus getting the guy that just fits the offense. And
Mhm.
let's try to make the offense we installed 2 years ago actually work and give it all the components and parts it needs to make it work. And that's the better approach to me tactically. Not to mention that I just the read option thing we mentioned, these quarterbacks come in, they run it. That means they're going to be running hog wild. They're not going to be sliding. They're going to be doing the Lamar Jackson, playing the quarterback position, just buck wild, which also then increases the chances for a bad injury at the bad point of time. Versus a guy playing within the structure of an offense who's only having to throw 25 times a game, who's not asked to be running around a lot, a lot of running the ball at that point. That guy to me has a chance of then staying healthy through the season, then getting you in the playoffs, and then anything can happen then at that point is sort of the theory behind my approach here.
Yeah. And I'd take the quarterback that can throw better than the one that's more agile and can run around, because Lamar was, and other quarterbacks are, it's crazy to see something like that, especially that MVP season he had.
Mm-hmm.
But it was figured out eventually.
Yeah.
So
it's not a complicated style of play, and people can start to solve your tendencies and how you like to run. Oh, he likes to pirouette around the pocket when it's onto the near hash. They got all the advanced analytics that they study and how your movement goes, but it's not, you don't have any counters. If they mush rush you on the edges and slow rush you through to keep you compressed into the pocket, there's not really a counter for you at that point outside of playing the quarterback position well within the pocket. And if you don't have that, you're going to be then just kind of stuck, with your ability to go off of it. I just think it puts you more to that checkers, not chess stage of football. And we're in the era of chess, and we're in the era of 4D chess in football. And I think that's it just isn't going to work as well. It had its day. You still need a guy that's mobile. I think the mobile quarterback is something that's as necessary as ever now. But I'd rather have at least a little bit of guy that just operate the offense, have some knowledge, have some ready experience under center, be able to know how to get your footwork going back. So I don't have to clean all. There's a lot of cleanup if you don't have any of that in your game. You just been in spread, taking shotgun 24/7. It's a lot to have to clean up then at the NFL level to get you ready and right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, man. We got a stack here on the lines.
Yeah.
Appreciate you jumping in though, Ethan, and all your support for the channel, brother.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Like I said, we're going to do this. I can't say we'll be able to do it like a weekly, but we're going to do this on the regular. So please do hop back in. We're going to, kind of keep hopping through this on this. So we'll go Hawks, man. No matter what happens, give me a season prediction here. Give me your season prediction.
I think we max out, even though it might not necessarily be the best record ever by the end of the season, I think we max out at 7.
Okay.
But I'm thinking more about 5 or 6.
All very realistic, man. All very realistic.
May not be a bad thing either.
Hey, could turn out to be a blessing in disguise, especially if Denver has a bad year. I wouldn't be crying on 2 top 10 picks. Nope. I'd be able to dry my eyes with that type of draft capital on their side, especially 2 high then second round picks, because you almost have de facto 4 first round picks there when you think about the 2 seconds being at the very top of the second round. So, well, it'll be fun no matter what. I know you'll be here, my man. So appreciate you, brother.
Oh yeah.
Have yourself a good one. And now it's my lady Dananda. How are we doing, Megan? Oh, she found it.
It's temporarily hiding my 6 shelves of Grogu there, but I could not resist today.
There we go.
I'm doing well, my guy. How are you? Week 6, bring it on.
Hell yeah,
we're getting about to get those tickets too, my guy.
July already.
Yeah, I know. It's frightening, isn't it? Can we please stop? And I'm saying we as the NFL, not just the 12s with the Baker Mayfield crap.
I don't know why it's relit. It's like one of those fires. You have a campfire and you put it out and you're like, it's all done.
It's rollers and you think, we're good. Because some idiot put a Baker Mayfield Seahawks jersey on the Fanatics site.
That got everybody for a day. Somebody messed up in the Seahawks headquarters.
I saw it and it's like, crap, really? And then I must have blinked and it was taken off. But yeah, can we please stop that? Because I go on Hoodie's chat fairly regularly, and it's like, when are you signing Baker? We're not. Oh, really? It's like, can we just stop, please? I've not liked. I didn't mind Baker until I saw the clip where he was talking crap about Seattle, and it's like, really?
Mhm.
Sorry, time out, loser. You're expecting us to pay you $18 million when you've talked shit about us? No.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, but I have to tell you, I'm now on the CJ Stroud train. I was on the Levis train, but I watched a bit of him just in the last few days, and I'm not cold on Levis, but if we got either Levis or Stroud,
I don't know. I don't have no issue with
I
that.
wouldn't be upset.
He's Stroud's my number 2 right now. So Jefferson's my 3. That's my 1, 2, 3 right now. I have nothing I can really pick apart in CJ Stroud's game, really, at the end of the day, outside of he's had elite receiving talent at the edges that is just creating massive amounts of separation on every one of their routes. So you're just watching at times him throwing to guys that are 3-4 yards of space, open space. But again, I can't pick. He's mechanically pretty clean. He's got a strong enough arm. He's got good prerequisite size, relatively good mobility. He's not going to be a twitchy mobile guy, but he can move around back there. He's just kind of boringly good in the tape that I've watched on him. But I say boringly good at number 2. Being number 2 again. I always like to say, I make sure I parse this, Megan. Yeah. Five quarterbacks going in the first round. Probably two to three are going to go in the top 12 picks. So when we do start talking about, when I talk about my top 3 here, and I'm saying that's what I'm anticipating is 3 quarterbacks going in the top 12 picks. And we're talking about parsing between these guys or saying, well, I like this guy way better than this guy or that guy. We got to put it into that. It's into that category of you going, well, who's the better player, LeBron or Jordan? Well, they're all, Jordan. I agree, but they're all great players. My point being is that I'm not, it almost starts to feel like you're throwing shade at Stroud or you're throwing shade at Jefferson, which is, people get sensitive to this. So that's why I preface this, Megan, because they go, oh God, you use offense. Justin, I love Jefferson. I'm not out on Jefferson.
I'm not out on Jefferson. I'm not out on Levis. I'm saying if I'm John Schneider and Pete Carroll, looking at the 3 of them, I'm leaning towards Stroud. Yeah. But I could be talked into Levis. I could be talked into Jefferson. I'm not saying I'm out on them cold.
Yeah. And Stroud's favorite team is the Seahawks.
Well, there we go. Sign the man. Sign the man. Don't worry for the draft. We'll get him. I'm just interested. Who do you think's won the Russell trade? I think it's us.
I think we have, outside of the Broncos winning a Super Bowl this year, because I think
they're not going to do, no matter what.
I don't think they're going to do. And there's a variety of reasons. The tough division they play in, Russell coming to a new team, the new team having to learn. I mean, the one thing Russell is right out the gate, like in him in shotgun, he's going to want to be 1.5 yards further back in shotgun than any prior quarterback you've had there, because he wants the extra space to see over the top of the lineman in the shotgun. Well, now you have to adjust your protections around that, right? Because now your tackles are going to be tested to the edge that much further, right? If I have a quarterback back 1.5 yards, those defensive ends get a little bit wider in their wide 9 stance. That they've got that extra space to get to the quarterback, where if he's a step forward, they have to more arch around that. They run around that arc and do more of a, whether it's a straight path kind of situation. So they're going to have to learn these kind of things with Russell's game. And I think he will be good there, but then next year, he's got the impending, he's already has an agent leaking $50 million a year. And we know that the second you're now paying this guy $50-60 million a year, how are you building the rest of your team around him, especially when you have places to build?
That's the thing when I say, to on Hoodie's chat and whatever, that I'm not sorry Russell is gone. That's like, oh my God, that's sacrilege. Your greatest quarterback is gone. Mm-hmm. So it's a $50 million cap hit. And okay, we don't have a quarterback. That sucks. Or we've got a young quarterback and an old quarterback in Gino and Drew. And can we just stop the crap about Drew? Give the kid a chance. And I'm on that train because he's gorgeous, but it's like, we know you're stating the obvious. We don't have a quarterback. We're going to suck this year. Although I think Ethan was being a little pessimistic. I've got us between 5 and 7 wins. Mm-hmm. Anything else is a bonus.
That's where he had. Ethan had his 5.
Yeah, 5. I've got us probably 6 or 7 if it goes their way. Yeah, I'm just sick of the crap coming to us because we're going to suck. Yeah, tell us something we don't know. You know what I mean? And there's no, like, I'm very optimistic for this, given that we're rebuilding, retooling, blah blah blah, whatever. Yes, I do, DJ. He's about half my age, but that does not matter. He is absolutely gorgeous. Like, there's no optimism, and I'm by nature an optimistic person. Even when we were tanking last year, and I was getting up at 2:00, as you know, to watch this team suck. I haven't been this excited for a season probably since the Super Bowl run.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in terms of, yeah, I know we're rebuilding, retooling, whatever. But to me, yeah, we're doing all that. Yeah, we haven't got a QB. We're probably 1-2 years off a that potentially Super Bowl winning QB. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen, to see how the pieces we've got fit.
Mm-hmm.
How, I don't know if you saw the Sound of the Seahawks episode that dropped with Sean Desai and Clint.
Great.
Wasn't that brilliant? Like, I've been on I'm sort of like, yeah, whatever with her. But Desai, yes, we were on stream together the day that Sean Desai signed with us, and how excited I was and still am about that. So I'm not necessarily worried about wins and losses. I mean, yeah, you want to win more than you lose, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I'm excited for week 6 because I'm going to be there. I mean, that's a give me. But I'm just excited at the possibilities.
Well, you're building to something now, and as opposed to before, you had to. And I'll say this with Russell Wilson, as I said, I did lean back. I got to be a man of my word of what I said at the time. At the end of the day, I would have loved to build around Russell Wilson, the offense, get him an offensive line. We didn't take that approach, and we were never going to take that approach with Carroll here, and Carroll wasn't going to go. And at that point in time, you had 2 different very bright stars that were both kind of pointing in 2 different opposite directions, and you needed to get yourself into everybody moving in the same direction. And it's not to throw shade at Russell to say that he wants to go in that. He very well could be proven to be right on this. And it's not to go throw shade at Carroll to say, it's that you need to have a team that is operating with the same philosophical standpoint as how they're going about their business. And I think that that's why you're in, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think that's where your optimism comes from here. Is now exactly. Right or wrong, you have a team that's all got all the ships pointed in the same direction, where everyone's rolling at once.
If there's 1 or 2 ships going the other way, they can be brought around.
Right.
Tom's got in the comment, am I the only one thinking Pete's grooming his replacement? Maybe I'm seeing more than what it is. No, I've said since Sean Desai signed as assistant head coach, and I think he's working on special teams, that Sean Desai, when Pete goes, not that I want the silver-headed coaching god to leave anytime soon, that Sean Desai, I will bet quite a considerable sum of hard-earned Aussie coin that Sean Desai will be our next head coach. There you go, B, you've got it on film, so when it happens, I can say I told you so. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely, it would not, Carroll's going to groom any positional coach to come in, be at a secondary coach who's got defensive coordinator position. That'd be the exact type of guy I'd expect him to be grooming, just in general, in real general terms. It's hard to do that. We talked about this before. The grooming thing is tough to do. We've had a recent history of it here with Holmgren and Mora, and that situation, the way that played out prior, and how it made things hard when it got public. The only way it can work is if it's not public, if it's something that maybe Carroll's aware of in his own mind, but nobody else is really aware, or maybe him and Desai have talked about it in general terms.
I don't think Pete Carroll, being who he is, the eternal optimist, will say, oh, by the way, I'm quitting in 3 years, and by the way, this guy here, Sean, is going to replace me. He wouldn't say it, but I think probably behind what I imagine happened is behind the scenes he's saying, hey, just so you know, I'm putting you up
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this though, because you're bringing a question to mind. What if you have a situation though where, Dan Quinn, Gus Bradley really quickly went on to get head coaching opportunities. And what if you come in this offseason and he turns that whole secondary around and this defense is a top 5 defense next year?
Yeah, therein lies a problem.
Because it's not just head coaching at that point now. You have a secondary assistant head coach. Somebody could offer him a defensive coordinator assistant head coach position and overrule you on that. Or even offer him just a head coaching position outright as he's a rising star.
I think you would, if I was Pete, what I would do is I'd offer it. I'd say, look, this is what I'm planning.
Yeah, but Desai's not going to want to wait. Like if somebody's willing to offer him a head coaching job today, he's going to take it today.
But then it'd be on Desai to make the choice. I'm happy he coach. Thanks for thinking of me. Not now. Or hell yeah, I'm all in. But we need to consider, as you said, these guys back here. I'm happy to replace you, but who's replacing me back here? Have you thought? Okay, if I take the step forward to take your place, who's taking mine back here? Now, they may have it in play that they've got someone under Desai who he would see, that guy there, whoever that is. Or, as I said, I mean, Desai's 39, so he's young, but he's not going to be 39 forever. I'm not saying, he's 7.
Well, and I'm just putting together like there's a good chance you got a lot of talent in that secondary. You got a lot of talent in that secondary. Pete just signed the contract extension a year and a half ago.
Oh, Pete's not going for 3.
Pete's not going anywhere anytime soon.
He's not going.
The way the NFL works is that there's not a lot of bright candidates out there right now that people are like, this guy needs to get a job. And he's a guy that with his star rising the way it's rising, the way it's going in recent trajectories I've seen with coaches like this. It's like that Josh McDaniels kind of trajectory that got him an initial job in Denver. It's like, it'll get you it quicker rather than you having to wait the 3 or 4 years. And I'll just tell you, Megan, there's not going to be a coach that under any way, shape, or form is going to wait a year and a half for an eventual head coaching position versus taking it just now.
I see Desai staying with the Hawks for his contract, but if a head coaching position comes up that he's in line for, he'll go for it. And I don't knock him. Why would you knock him for that? As I said, he's 39 and he wants to build a career.
It's just in regards to the grooming to be the successor.
Yeah, Tom's got a good point. Tom says, I think it depends on who the new ownership is too.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But I wouldn't be. What drives me insane about this team and what surprised me with Desai coming as much as I wanted it was they didn't go internal. Or they've gone internal and it hasn't worked as well as they hoped. And it's like, well, let's cast the net. And look, we've caught Sean Desai. Because remember, I said to you, I was about 98% sure he was going to follow, I can't think of who it was.
Oh, Donatel
up to the Vikings, I think it was. I would have bet money on that and lost it. But I take your point that 4 years Pete's 71, so do you really think he's going to stick around 70? I hope he does. Love the man, as you know. 75, 76 years of age, he's going to be sticking around.
Well, it's just like this. It's look at the quarterback position this offseason. You hear Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady at their golf charity event already talking with one foot out the door. It's getting harder for us to commit this year. It's getting harder for me to do that. Yeah, I'm getting
Tom,
close to the end.
You didn't have to commit. You retired.
No, I understand, but the thing is this has been a long held truth in sports, in that if you're already starting to think about leaving, you're already out the door.
You're already out the door. Yeah.
I would say with Coach Carroll that he's not shown any of those signs or indications. It's been a long career. He's not been waxing poetic to the media about the olden times. He's just constantly in the same mode of forward. And I think on the back of Tom's point with this, I think that makes me go to kind of more of a hard no the more I think about this. The ownership change is going to come. A new ownership is going to want their guy. This is the thing with the ownership coming in. They're going to want their people. Part of the reason why you're going to probably have a lot of the cap cleared down to, because they're going to want to spend the monies on their guys, the guys they want theoretically. And so I think between the fact of that, within a year from now, other candidacies are going to come up for them. Within 2 years, we're going to be sold. 2.5 years, we're going to be sold. I think all of that, is he going to want to, if he gets offered the job in 2024, Megan, but he knows the team's going to be sold in the year, is Desai going to really want to sign up and take that risk for another owner who might come in and go, I don't want a defensive minded coach. I want one of those snazzy offensive minded coaches to come in and light it up on the field. And I think it's probably more likely the other. And it sounds good in theory, but I just think
but how would that work given in 2 years when we're sold, they say, we're looking elsewhere for our head coach. How would that go with having to pay out the rest of his contract? Because
it's all guaranteed.
Oh, so even if he is politely,
he gets every last.
He'll get every cent. So, okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's not, maybe he's willing. He's like, oh, but worst case scenario, I'm out and I'm back on the streets and I get another coaching job. I'm getting paid while I don't. But I just think
I don't see it as much as I love him at 75.
If Carroll was a little more in that, showing signs of I'm getting kind of done with this. But I mean, even the Russell trade alone was a sign of my way still works. I still believe in what I believe. I mean, that was to have the stones to make that kind of move and then still remain.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that rebuilding, retooling, whatever, you wouldn't do that if you were only. The way I think of it is, you wouldn't start the planning and the execution to build to a quarterback in a couple of years if you were out the door in 2 or 3 years.
Right. I mean, I just don't think that he's going to want to. Yeah, he's going to want to go through all that hard work, and now the fruits come in, and he doesn't get any of the fruits.
He's like, right.
Yeah, he's got to walk out the doors. They're putting the fruits on the table.
My work here is done.
Yeah, he's like salivating. He's like, I've been sitting with craft teams for a couple of years. No, you're done now, Pete. You did the work. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
If I was Pete, I'd be like, yeah, right. Okay, these guys are coming with me. Build your own damn team. Yeah, right. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, I think, with the new ownership. Who do you think? I'm praying Jody does what she's hoping to do and put the team up as Paul requires and then bite back is what I've heard.
Boy, I don't know how much of the money she's getting out of that, but it's going to take quite.
It's not going to be pocket change, but no. She has, from what I understand, she has expressed the interest that she'll do as Paul said and put it up as required, but she's looking to buy it back. So do you think if she does, it'll be same old that we've had in terms of ownership for the last?
I think it'll improve off of what it's going to be in the next couple of years, because right now, as you know, I've spoken about, we have an escrow problem. It's an issue nobody's talking about, which I think is hilarious.
Explain that to me, being Australian. What does that entail?
When you put a big contract together, and I know we've gone back and forth on understand the contracts, but when you put a big contract together and you have bonus money or guaranteed money, which are two different things. Bonus you get instantaneously, guaranteed money is eventually I'll get it. Yep. When you do that, you've got to put the totality of that money into escrow. So Megan, when you have 2 or 3 guys that sign $80 million in guaranteed at every turn, right? Let's say I have 3 guys that are $50 million in guaranteed that I sign over the 1.5 year span. That's $150 million I need to go put into escrow instantaneously on those deals. Not at the end of the deals, not down the line.
Right. So you've got to do it straight away. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you've seen with the contracts over not just this last offseason, but over the last couple of years, even in 2 different off seasons where we've had $50 million of money to spend, they've not gone out and done big multi-year deals. It's not been 4-year deals where they can spread that bonus money out. And my contention on that is the reason being Jody does not have the liquidity right now to throw that money into escrow like she'll be able to do after the sale, because right now she's being pressed by the trust to draw everything into a liquid state. It's being, everything is good. This is why the Blazers are being sold. This is why all his properties are being sold. Everything must go.
I thought, my understanding of it was when Paul passed, when the Bears namesake passed, and I have a trust fund. So yes, I'm a trust fund baby. All of his business assets, Vulcan, Seahawks, whatever, were put into that trust to be controlled by the family trust. I think it's the Paul G. Allen Family Trust with Jody at the helm. That's how I understood it.
Right.
And then Jody is under instructions from Paul's estate, which she is the trustee, executor and trustee of, to deal with that. Is that what this is? Or am I thinking?
With the trust has basically, it's dictating within its language that everything then must be liquidated by a certain date, or this process must happen. So this has got to be sold.
So
That's got to be sold.
It's not Jody's choice.
It's not Jody's choice.
It's what Paul had specified. I'm just thinking of when
she has slight control in that. I don't think it's a matter of by this date this must happen, but that these steps must be undertaken and happen and occur across the board, and that then the liquid money goes into his pet projects. That's what's dictated
like his conservation, his elephant project in Africa, which I love because I sponsor elephants in Africa, the Brain Institute. So I'm just thinking of how it was when my father set my brother and I's trust up. He specified that my brother is in charge, so my brother essentially is Jody, and there are steps like with the trip. I'm drawing on the trust to go on the big trip, so there are steps.
Right.
And this needs to be sold and then put into this. So is that the same in America? That's Australian trust.
Kind of. Think of it too like this. Like, so she's in this liquidation state, but that doesn't mean that she's then at the end of the liquidation state with no money. It just means when things get liquidated, she gets parsed off whatever's not allotted in the trust, where like after this gets liquidated, you get 20% of the holdings of the totality of the liquidation.
So she's going to get some proceeds, not all proceeds, because they're going into.
And that's the part we don't know, right? So like if she's only getting $3 billion in proceeds, she ain't buying.
I would not sneeze at $3 billion in my back pocket. Just saying, even with inflation, I'm not sneezing at it.
No, but I mean that she's not going to be able to buy the team for $3 billion. Is my point. The team's going to go for probably $6 billion at that time. So the problem is that she goes, okay, I got $3 billion. This is why we've heard reports that she's actually going to end up probably buying a piece, not buying the full team. I don't think she's going to, because to buy a full team, you're going to need $6 billion off the top and probably another $1 billion just for,
I hadn't heard that she was going in for a piece. I heard she wanted to buy back the team, which my brain said the whole thing.
If he gives her a big enough chunk, right? Like if he plans on giving her, I mean, what Alan was worth, 50 billion, something. I mean, he was worth
60, at time of death, I read somewhere 68.
All right, so 68, and she ends up with 13. She can buy the team, right? So it is a matter of if she's getting a good enough chunk, she can pull it off. But because of you just look what happened with the Denver sale. It wasn't a local Denver person who comes and buy it. It's the Waltons, who come in. It's somebody with the biggest wallet comes in and throws it on the table.
Big old money families that pulls out their wallet, says, there you go, there's your millions. Yeah.
Beat that. Beat that, mom and pops.
I just really, because, Paul Allen is one of my heroes for what he did to the city, for the city. I just really want to see it stay in the Allen family. But now my only concern with that is, okay, whether it's the whole thing or a piece of the piece of it, are we going back to Jody's? I mean, you heard her say it in the draft room. Oh, I don't worry. I let you guys do it because you know more than I do. I don't worry. Like that, hands off.
Yeah.
Which is good for an owner to be hands off. I don't want an owner who is like in the face of the GM and the coach all the time, but I want a little more interest. And it was interesting. I don't know if I know we were on stream together, but I had the War Room stream on in the background, and it was just interesting to see that she was leaving it to Pete and John, but it was more, every so often you'd see her doing this and shaking her head saying, really? No, or whatever.
Well, I think there was definitely something that happened in the power change dynamic that I think in retro, and it's me making a guess here, but I would hesitate to guess that Schneider gained more power and control this offseason, and she was in that draft room. She was in that draft room to make sure that the power...
I know Paul sort of sat in the back corner of the draft room, keeping an eye on things, but again, with that personality he had being, I'm interested. Hey, I'm here if you want to talk. Guys, I'll yell out if that's
I think he was in it. I think Paul is not just just take this account that I've heard on this.
Okay.
John Schneider, your general manager, had to write every day on Monday morning a report.
Yeah, right. The reports for the
about
boss.
what happened in the game, about
Yep.
what happened in the prior game. There is no owner I would reckon to guess that has any general manager in this league that is asking their general manager to do that on Mondays.
That's the business side, though.
that-
I think that's Paul's business brain. I want to know what happened. I want you to break it down. And
Right,
tell
but
me.
it's evidence of having a level of insertion into the situation of having ear to the ground, not being kind of the guy in the back.
Yeah,
That's not guy back sitting in the back of the room who's just kind of
No,
a little bit
I think
obtuse.
I'm not saying that was Paul's style. I'm saying in the draft room, not his. Because yes,
Right.
I've heard those stories. I've heard John Schneider say it. The boss, being Paul Allen, would want details. Okay, that played. Why did it happen? Which if I've read, you want an insight into Paul Allen, read his book. Seriously. And to me, that's the business side. And if I'm dropping the coin he dropped to own the team, I'm going to want that detail.
Me too.
What I mean is, I've seen video of him in the draft room where he's in the back corner. He's watching, he's listening, but he's sort of sitting there going, I'm going to let it play out.
Yeah.
I'll put my input in. Where you have some owners in some teams, I've heard fans say that they're in the air. No, you don't want him. You know what I mean?
100%. No, you're 100% right there. And that's not what you want that owner. You don't want the Al Davis guy. You don't want the Jerry Jones guy.
Jerry Jones is the example. He's
the literal general manager. He and his son, not even the face. They're literal general managers. He literally has made himself the general manager of the team.
Yeah, and
it's absurd as hell.
We have unless your name's John Schneider, you're not the GM.
Yeah.
You can have your input, and that's fine. Tom asked, and you can answer this, B, are there guidelines for the Seattle sale? Like they can't leave Seattle. 2040, they can move the team, is it?
I believe, and this is again a little bit of a gray area. I did find an article on this about a month ago that I've got to go back and find where I put in. But yes, as I understand it, it's about 2040 where you're at as far as the being able to move at that point. I also I'm going to give Paul Allen some credit here. Okay, the guy had to build up from the ground up to get the support, to get a stadium built, to save a team in his home city at the last minute. 20 years of building this team, to building it to a winner, to getting it to multiple Super Bowls 3 times over and winning one. Do we not think he's taken precautionary steps before his death at that point to ensure that the legacy of the Seahawks would remain in Seattle, that there would not be any. And so I think it's, without needing to even see contract language in regards to this, it's silly to expect that he all through this whole process, he does all this stuff right. And then this one place he bails on the city. This one place he leaves the back door open for them to leave and go to another team. Or another city. I just don't buy it any way, shape, or form. No way.
No, and as I said, I've read a lot on Paul Allen. I didn't get to meet him. I would have loved to fallen at his feet and thanking him for saving the team. He loved that city. True, Tom. It happened to the Sonics, but I would say to that, the Sonics weren't owned by Paul Allen. I guarantee you, if Paul Allen
Tom,
did
and Tom, it's a good point. Sorry to interrupt you, Megan.
No, you're right.
It's a good point, Tom, with the Sonics. But again, this is why always context matters, and one size doesn't ever always fit all. The Sonics had a guy in Howard Schultz who bought them. He didn't save them in the city. He didn't put his own money up for the arena there. He came in and bought him as an asset that he could then offload as an asset for a profit a couple years later.
Buy and sell,
and willingly then sold him to an owner that he knew was going to move him out of town, and he just didn't care all that much. This is a situation where Paul, you've got 30 years of a guy invested in this team, and with his sister taking over and all of that, who at every single turn has exhibited more care than Schultz does on his best days. And I just can't think that guy suddenly took a wild ass left turn at one point and said, I don't really care at my death. That whatever happens to Seattle happens.
Yeah, whatever. I'm dead. I'm 6 feet under. Who cares?
Yeah. So I agree. We were going with Tom that it has happened before. And look, we have a right to be sensitive here, Megan. They tried to take the Mariners from us in the 90s.
They've tried to take the Mariners,
Seahawks.
Seahawks.
I mean,
like Seattle has a right to get pissed every time there's talk that a team is leaving. Having said that, we did get the Kraken Foundation member here, but because, and I think it's where you are geographically. Oh, you're up in the Northwest. Who cares? We'll gut them. Yeah, no one cares about the Pacific Northwest. Hello, have you met any of the 12s?
Yeah.
Wherever they are in the world. And I think I think your point about Schultz was he blatantly knew the new owner was going to take us out of Seattle.
Yeah.
And he's like, not my problem.
Yeah.
Where Paul was so beautifully invested. He knew where he came from. He loved where he came from and whatever he could do to give back. Having said that, the hard sell to get him involved had to happen. It wasn't like he woke up and goes, I'm going to buy the Seahawks. There was a lot, and he said, I'll only do it with the public, which I think showed a lot of respect for the public. It's not just, hey, I've got the billions. Yeah, let's go. And that's why I love Paul Allen so much. You can say what you like about Microsoft. I mean, I'm sitting on a Microsoft laptop talking to you, so I can't say too much. You can say what you like about Bill Gates and how Bill Gates did him dirty when he was ill and wanted his shares, and Allen said, hell no. Well, exactly. That's a fair point. The NFL wouldn't want to lose the revenue from Seattle.
No, it's another reason.
It's not the only reason they wouldn't. I mean, we are literally worldwide. I'm talking to you from Australia, where, Germany, Canada, the 12 North in Canada, Hawaii, 27 states out of 50 in the US, whatever. I'm proud to say that I am a 12 because of the love that Paul Allen had for the fans as well, because he knew full well without the fans, you can have the greatest team in the world.
It's true.
We
got spoiled by him. Our next owner,
I think we did, I think any owner that comes after him, whether it's Jody, well, aside from Jody, I guess, has a lot to live up to. And believe me, the 12s are going to be going, yeah, Paul Allen, but the city of Seattle owns the name the Seahawks brand. I think the Paul Allen Trust owns it now, maybe.
I don't think we own the city. I don't think the city owns the Seahawks.
I don't think the city owns the name.
If Seahawks were moved, the name would be changed like Oklahoma City Thunder changed them, if that were to occur anyway, though. So I mean, it's not like somebody would go after it, but yeah. We're not. It's all good, but it isn't. It's not happening. We're not moving.
No,
we're staying.
We're not going to let it happen.
We're staying here. Well,
anyway.
So give me a season prediction here, Megan, and then we'll.
Oh, look, I would love to say 7. I'm going realistically 5 to 6, maybe, as long as in week 6. We get the Cards. I really hope we get the Saints, but let's face it, it is in New Orleans, so that ain't happening. I'm saying best case scenario 7, worst 5, but would be happy with anything plus 6. But yeah, so
being mighty realistic on your part with that.
So. I think anything past that will be a bonus, and I'll be crowing probably from the 12's flag stand when I'm at Lumen. But yeah, I think you have to be realistic because we are rebuilding. And I think, look, I'd love to say I don't have expectations for this team, but they have to be realistic. Next year, we'll talk and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I can't wait to see Drew Lock.
You never know. Well, Gino might win the job, though. You never know. He's getting a lot of prep out there.
Yeah.
So KJ Wright thinks he's going to win it.
Yeah, but I'm really on the Drew Lock train. Can't wait to see Sean Desai and what he brings. I've been on that train for months. As you know, Charles Cross was on that. I think you got me to have a look, and it's like, yeah, and picked it right. Yeah, so we'll see. I'll be in touch regarding some questions I've got on Twitter for you too, B.
Yeah, we gotta coordinate. We
do.
So
But yeah, I need to go and make some phone calls. So yeah.
Well, thank you for swinging in, Megan, and thank you as always for all your support the channel. I can't wait for week 6. We'll have some fun.
Seattle's not gonna know what hit it. All right, guys, take care.
Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Megan and Ethan, for jumping on in. We got Randall. Let's see if you're ready to roll here. We'll bounce on in there. And if you guys did get a chance to check out that episode 2, the Seahawks are doing of that series, goes into a little bit more on Clint Hurt. And boy, was there really some good tidbits I thought in there when you're hearing him talk. And I think I was most impressed when you watch that episode of them and when he's speaking with Al Woods and Shelby Harris on the sideline at a practice during minicamp. And you almost got the impression Al Woods had asked him just prior to the response to the question, which they cut to, of him asking about Sean Desai coming in and Hurt specifically mentioning, it's like, you got to know what you don't know and know what's not your expertise. And like, I know defensive lines, I know how to get you guys into your situations there. I know everything backwards and forwards there. I know secondary, but he's a master at it. And we want to bring in the guy that's got a speciality with it and understands what he's doing there with that. And so I think it again speaks to her having a good feel for the situation. Know what you don't know what you do know. And if you don't know something, bring somebody else in there who can upgrade it, which I think that's what Desai is going to do. He's going to come in with Luke Scott, to Carl Scott to be the guys that are the specialists there for that secondary. And you're going to see a secondary that's so much more different. You saw it in the episode as well. And them describing some of the subtleties and differences in the way this will look versus how it's looked prior, which has been so predictable and so similar play in and play out. We are going to have this thing turned on its ear this upcoming season. Hey, Randall, how's it going, my guy?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I'm on the road, so I'm going to pull over here for a second. So what do we got going on today in Hawkland?
Well, not too much, of course. We don't have much news. We're waiting on the DK extension. Of course, McLaurin signed his, so that hopefully maybe locks in more of the price on what DK is going to make, being another guy that came out of that same draft that he came out of. So hopefully this pushes that a little bit more further along in that direction of things. But it's, we're into this. This has been one of the more quieter Junes that I can remember in recent years. There's just not been a lot. You got the Baker Mayfield thing going on. To me, in my opinion, I think this Baker talk is a lot of his agent doing whatever in God's name he can do to try to drum up any kind of interest he can, when there's probably just not a market that has really any interest for the kid. I mean, where is the other landing spot for him, if not Seattle at this point?
Probably Carolina.
But even Carolina then has to solve their Sam Darnold problem, because Sam Darnold, I believe he's in the same situation where it's like, I think the last year of his rookie deal or whatever, he's got he's got a guaranteed deal right at the same place as Baker, about at $18 million. So like, what do they just bring Baker in at $18 million?
Did Darnold come in the year after Baker?
It might have been the year after. I can't remember, I just remember, I think it was Carolina did something like when they traded for him.
I'm sure it's guaranteed.
They guaranteed it up. So, and then remember they drafted Matt Corral as well.
Yes.
So,
I am not worried about DK. Seahawks always it seems like every year there's that one or two signings. It's the off-season talk, and right on the eve of training camp, they get signed. Like, I believe both of Bobby and Russell's first deals were that way. Adam's deal was that way. There's always some little drama about somebody needing to get paid, and they get broken off right before or like right after camp starts. It's just the way that they run their books. So I'm not worried about DK. I
think this year it's just a little more stressful because you are in that quote unquote rebuilding sort of territory. And so there's that, that thought process with it of like, maybe your trigger finger gets a little more itchier when you were like, well, we could sign him for 27, 28, but man, this team here is going to throw us another pick and a half, another first and a second next year's draft. And, we never knew that the price of the receivers was going to go this high, and we're really trying to keep the budget down and like there's just some other things maybe that pushed the decision versus those prior years when you were in more of a go for it mode where, one way or another, you're going to get the deal done. Like Jamal Adams, for instance, you had given up the draft capital. You weren't going to trade him for half the capital that you got for him.
Right.
So you sort of made your bed with having to, make that signing when you did at that point. And I'm slightly worried by Randall. I'm in your camp with it. Okay. I'm with you on that. And that I think it does still get done, but I do have a little bit of that itching.
DK signed by the beginning of camp. Mark it down.
I'm marking it. I'm not stressing now about it. I'm going to blame you because I put the stress out of this now. So this better go down. This better happen.
So on the Terry McLaurin, I didn't understand. They said he signed a record signing bonus, but it showed us $28 million. I didn't. There's certainly been signing bonuses more than $28 million.
I probably guaranteed money is what they were probably meaning it as. And that's the part where this is the part of contracts that are changing up more than ever before. And it's actually the main part, I think, that's throwing people over the edge of the cap doesn't exist, especially as it pertains to talking about the Rams.
Yeah.
Where you go, look at the Rams are doing. The cap is it's fake. It's fake cap. And what's actually happening is the difference between bonus money and guaranteed. Because the bonus.
I understand.
Sorry,
but bonuses are effectively guaranteed money also. I mean,
they are,
unless you go out and get, even if you go to a rub and tug or whatever, I think Watson's still guaranteed. So isn't the signing bonus still guaranteed? That's why it accelerates if you're cut.
It does, but this is the important part. Bonus money is the moment you sign the contract, that's the money you're getting. Guaranteed money is I eventually get it. And so what the Rams are doing is that they go to Donald and they say, okay, you will get all of this new money in this deal, which is guaranteed. But the guarantee doesn't click in, let's say, till year 3 of the new deal, right? Well, that means that doesn't count as bonus money on the first 2 years of the books then, right?
Okay. Like what they used to call a roster bonus or something along those lines.
Right. It's still guaranteed. The Rams are on the hook for it. There's no way for them to get out from on the hook on it outside of, let's say, them able to, potentially move him before the date clicks in that it starts to count against the cap. But this is how the Rams are manipulating the cap. They're utilizing, rather than bonus money off the top where you pay full market prices even on a 4-year deal, they're getting it into that year 3 where here comes the guaranteed deal and it'll hit them. Their cap's going to be in tough shape for a couple years running now. But that's how they're getting around it. They're still happening to operate within the rules of the cap. They're not completely breaking it.
So I say, go get Baker Mayfield. I would feel so much more comfortable. I would be a lot more optimistic about the 2022 season if Baker Mayfield was under center, or at least competing in that quarterback room. I don't know. I've always liked Baker Mayfield since he transferred to Oklahoma. I think he can sling it. I think he can, he's shown that he can, at least be effective. I think he's a upgrade over Geno. I think he's an upgrade over Locke. I think he's got the, all those kind of intangible, it just makes too much sense. And frankly, I think if Baker's our starting quarterback, I think we legitimately have a shot at the wild card.
So I'm going to push back just a little bit with this. So first off, Baker Mayfield's rehabbing this whole offseason with his arm. He's not able to throw it, non-throwing, but he's not able to I've been told he's not been throwing up until maybe recently. He hadn't been throwing.
Yeah.
Number 2, you're bringing him on at a very late stage of the game here where he's had no offseason to throw with your wide receivers at all. So he has no chemistry built up with these guys from the moment he's walking in the door. Versus Geno, who's been here for a couple of years throwing to these guys. Outside of Baker being the number 1 overall pick, which I think in retrospect has been shown out to be a gross overdrafting of Baker, what has he done that's absolutely far and away separated himself from Geno? Yeah, he had that one good year. Yeah, he got them to the playoffs. But Geno Smith never played with a team as stacked as what Baker had in Cleveland. Those New York Jet teams that Geno was on and starting for early in his career were an echo of talent of what that Cleveland offense has put together over the last couple of years. So how are we sure that Baker is, not far, even marginally, how do we know for sure he's even marginally better than where a guy like Geno stands at when we kind of put that all into the pile? And I do ask that not as rhetorically, but really in wondering where from your standpoint, where that comes from with that confidence.
Well, we don't know. So, I mean, it's all, of course, an educated guess.
I mean, what you see with the light, is it that you feel like he's got the intangibles there? Is that maybe that his arm's a little more live than Geno? Is there something you see in those kind of things that has it as that overgrade?
He can push the ball down the field more. I don't think he's going to be, and frankly, Geno didn't play terrible in those games besides the last 2 minutes, right? I think his 3 losses, at least 2 of them, he had a turnover with 2 minutes less, or right. We're moving down the field in the Rams game. Well, that's when he stepped in. He had a costly fumble. Seems like that Pittsburgh game. And then, so he didn't play terrible besides maybe when the game was on the line, which I guess you could argue is the most important part. But, and DK had twice as many touchdown catches from Geno as he did from Russ in 4 games.
He did. That's right.
So, yeah, I would almost feel more confident with Geno than I would with Drew. Be interesting to see what Drew did. But at this point, Geno's he's 8 years in the league?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you kind of are what you are. And, Baker coming off the successful season, 26 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. And yes, he did have a talented roster, but it's still Cleveland. He's still, how many coaches did he have? 3. He had Jackson, he had Freddie Kitchens, and then whoever the last guy was, a couple general managers. So, I mean, you could make an argument the other way to say, well, there was really no continuity. He was never, and frankly, we saw what Geno did with the talent, right? He had the talent of 2 Pro Bowl receivers last year. That same roster that Russ had success with, minus a year and a half, but leading up to it. So it's not like that roster was void of talent, and he went 1-3, right? He's a backup. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know on that. I mean, I get where you're coming from. It's not that it's invalid from it, but the thing with that too is that Russell didn't do all that great behind this team either until he got to play against also Rans at the end of the season when he went on his little late end of the year run, and in between all that other time, he didn't look all that great behind that offensive line and that team. And there was times Dwayne Brown completely just got flat-footed, and you had Damian Lewis at left guard when you should have been right guard, and you had nothing at the center position, and your right tackle was in and out all year until you got to Jay Curhan. So, I mean, yeah, you had the guys on the outside, but you didn't have Chris Carson. You didn't have Rashad Penny, I believe, for those games that he played either. So, I mean, I could kind of push back and say, I mean, outside of his guys on the outside, did he have a lot of prime to work with, knowing also that he was going against 3 of the top defenses in the entire NFL last year in Pittsburgh, New Orleans, and Los Angeles in 3 of those games he was playing in. And then when he got to actually play against a lesser defense, he, slayed them. And I get what you're saying, and that he's 8 years in the league and you know what you have, but he was only given that one opportunity in New York and then not given another opportunity, and then has been as a backup since then. I mean, I'm not even saying I'm big on Geno, so don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating to say Geno is this amazing guy. I think he's a second-round quarterback who's going to give you second-round quarterback-like play. And I think Baker Mayfield at the end of the day is a second-round quarterback who's going to give you second-round quarterback type of play. And I think that first-round draft status of Baker and playing for Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and what that does to elevate your view of things kind of has pressed him up a little bit in eyes versus, seeing that stuff. And when we talk about him stacked talent at Cleveland, it's not just stacked talent. It's all across the board, multiple receivers, multiple tight ends, multiple running backs, an offensive line with no weak parts to it for those couple of years he was there.
Yeah. But was that all 3 years?
Not all 3 years.
When he came in, weren't they 0-16 the year before?
I believe they were. Yeah.
So that wealth of talent wasn't there the whole time, and they built that up as they went. I don't think that the offensive line was now a lot of people say it's top 5, top 10. I don't think it was always considered that, right? And then, the guy gets hurt. I don't know. I just, when I watch Baker play that playoff game versus Pittsburgh, that shootout versus Baltimore, the kid can play. And I think he would be successful in Seattle. I do.
Even with that short, how does it factor in though, not having that offseason where you're not able to throw as much, you have none of the chemistry with the receivers? Do you think he would just ramp up on that very quickly?
No,
Or
that
that would be a
something.
minimal impact?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much, has, if the guy's been going to Gino's house like they did Russ, I mean, they may be, they very well could be. And granted, you did have the OTAs. So, yeah, he would have a leg up on him. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But, that would be, they would have to accelerate it. He would get you would need to name him starter very quickly in camp, not split reps. And, there would be a learning. There's no doubt about that.
Where are you willing to go with Baker as far as what you're willing to take on him monetarily wise and then draft capital wise and giving up for him?
So thinking about it, I don't know specifics, but
in general terms, I won't hold you to a
so
certain
I
answer.
wouldn't be against, and I don't know exactly how you could do it, but we're going to need a quarterback. We don't know for sure. I wouldn't be against coming in and doing some sort of team friendly deal, and somehow if you can make it a 2-year deal, so he plays in 2022, 2023, and then with the idea that you bring the rookie in, right? But you don't want to just hand a team to a rookie, and you don't actually know how that's going to go. So if you could get, I don't know, 2 years, $35 million with 20 guaranteed, and I'm just throwing a number out.
Mm-hmm.
And I get you would have to move that out over 4 years, so there could be a dead cap, if you start going down the road on it. But I don't think you become the number one pick in the draft with who else was in that draft? Josh Allen. There was others, right?
Trubisky and there was one other guy.
Was that the Watson year?
Watson was in that. Yeah, that's right.
So you're not a second round graded quarterback, and then you get drafted ahead of Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson, who's one of the more decorated collegiate quarterbacks. There's talent there. He can push the ball. He can run an offense, and he's shown that.
Wait, but didn't Mitchell Trubisky go in front of those same two guys in that same draft?
True. So you have misses, right? But I don't think that Trubisky failed because of lack of talent.
Well, no, I think Trubisky is, at the end of the day, what he is, which is, I think, a second-round quarterback type, which is, I think, where he ends up slotting out to. But he got way overdrafted in the top 5 of the draft. And just my point being is that teams do make that mistake, and it does get made more than just a handful of times, even if you look over the last 10 years. You could probably find a good dozen examples of guys where at the end of the day, this guy it's not even about being a bust, right? Because that's how people want to overstate this stuff, is it's either he's a star, he's a bust. But what if he's just a really talented guy that's more in that career backup / borderline starting quarterback area?
And it might be semantics between, talent and then execution, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But from a talent standpoint, it's okay, you have the measurables, you have the arm strength, you have the ability to read a defense. These are all talent, and then you have to go out and execute. So we could be splitting hairs there on the definition of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think from a talent standpoint, for whatever reason, Cleveland fell in love with him, right? And, his first game, he came in the second half, and I think it was a Thursday night game, and he brought him back their first win in, a decade or whatever. I don't think you plug in a second round pick and they do those things. So it came from somewhere. And plus, I like a Baker Mayfield with a chip on his shoulder. I like a Baker Mayfield with something to prove, because he's shown throughout his career that that's when he's excelled. When people doubted him, almost kind of like a Russell Wilson. So
a little bit.
The best version of Baker, in my opinion.
I mean, you are to a degree. I mean, again, other than he's not necessarily been able to do a full offseason at training where you're maybe getting him at full 100% strength at the start of the year too, where you're getting more of a guy. That's what those athletes always like to say after they've come off to an offseason. Like last season, I had to rehab all offseason. This offseason, I actually get to go and train.
Right.
And they acknowledge the fact that there's a difference between the two. And if you're rehabbing, you're maybe not going to be in that, like you just said, best shape, of your career. And I don't, again, it's not to throw shade where I don't want to put in the camp of I look at Baker as a bust. I do look at him as talent, but the more I go along and looking at these quarterbacks and trying to evaluate and look at them, the more it does seem like there is sort of that tier system where, maybe it's a tier, between the first round quarterback to the second round quarterback. But then what difference does that make? What difference does that make on a truncated timeline on a quarterback who's had an offseason of rehabbing? When I put all that into sort of into the pot and stir it around, it just comes out to being a negligible difference versus, kind of what you are already having. Let's not forget, we're having to take on, to your point on trying to do the salary cap situation. You're taking on more money. You're probably going to have to give up some kind of draft capital to give it up. I like your scenario. And in theory, we texted back on this on, doing a 2-year deal. But if he goes out and balls out for you, which is a great problem to have, he's going to want to be paid the next year. And now that's after you've already just paid him a guaranteed money in that 20 million. Now he wants more guaranteed money because he feels like he's outperformed that deal. And now you're not even ever getting him at that discount. And now you're back in that barrel of paying a quarterback top of the market money because you have to, because of the fear of, just waiting to go get that young guy.
But see, that's why I would buy low on him now. And we know you can't hold out in the NFL these days, right? So I would rather have the idea that Baker's going to come in and balls out and then have that kind of crutch that, hey, we got you in 2023, as opposed to, he goes and throws, 28 touchdowns, 10 picks, and we win a playoff game. And then you got to pay him, right? Then he's going to really want money. So, yeah, and again, it would be a good problem to have. And the other thing I fall back to, I just think at the very least as a fan, it would be more interesting. Like, I don't think you're out too much. Like, you're not gonna mortgage the future. This isn't certainly not the capital you're gonna give up in case you got to move up and draft if we have to move up and draft a first round quarterback next year, multiple picks. Even if it is a where we trade for him and we pay, I don't know, I'm gonna throw a number out, we pay half a salary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're really not. I mean, shoot, that's what we paid Greg Olsen, right? Mm-hmm. $9 million. Yeah. So I just think that the reward outweighs the risk on, we talk about a season that could go either way. Then if we're really going to hedge our bets and we're going to say, hey, we're going to try to find lightning in a bottle, or, this could go any number of ways, who gives you your best opportunity to then exceed expectations? Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith? And I would go with the guy that led the Browns to a playoff win, right? Didn't he throw for 400 yards or something crazy in that playoff game? I know he's out-dueled Burrow a few times, right? Mm-hmm. He's put up numbers. He can push the ball down the field, and whatever happened with him and OBJ, I who knows, right? But he can certainly get the ball to the other receiver. He get the ball to the tight end.
I definitely can work that. I mean, to your point on that, he is leaving an offense that is very too tight end dependent, and he'd be going to another offense in Seattle that is also too tight end dependent. So he would be. I mean, you're talking about very likely of the top 3 teams that run the most 2 tight end sets in the NFL. Cleveland and Seattle will be probably 2 of those top 3 teams this upcoming season. That's why they just signed Njoku after just signing Austin Hooper. To a big deal. And so, we look at his numbers here. 2018, 3,700 yards, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Great opening year. 2019, which would be his best season essentially in 2019.
How many games was that? Was that his rookie year, the 27?
That was.
Touchdowns?
That would be 15 games, I believe.
Okay. Seems like he started late in the year, or like not late, but like a few games in.
So 14 games.
Okay.
14 games on that for 3,700 yards. So you're right, a little bit of a less of a schedule there. 2019 was his best year, the quote unquote, where he threw for 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns. Did also throw for 21 interceptions.
Yep.
On that year. I guess the next year would actually be the better one, even though it was less yards.
26 and 10.
Yeah, so he's 26-8 on that one, at least what they're showing here on that. So 28 touchdowns, and he threw for 3,500 yards. So, he's been relatively proficient in that period of time. I'm not going to hold last year against him. He was dealing with the bum shoulder throughout the time period, and quite frankly, probably just shouldn't have been playing. Some of this goes beyond, to me, the stats and just watching him play a little bit. But again, you're not alone on this. You're not. It's there are a variety of people.
A lot.
Huh? Yeah, he loves rolling right all the time, and that's a tendency teams can. That's that thing where teams can force you not buying, especially when you're not a guy. Oh, he's mobile, but he's not Russell Wilson mobile, and so he doesn't have that ability either. He's not one of those guys that, to me, sometimes thinks he's a little more escapable than he is. He can't, get out of stuff that he thinks he can. But I will also agree with you in that it would make the season more interesting. Bringing Baker in, it would definitely add an extra layer of spice to this year. That we weren't necessarily going to have if he isn't here. I guess maybe it comes down to maybe I'm to a degree a little more higher on I'm just a little bit higher on where Geno is. Not that I'm higher on him being a star or anything else, but I just my gut instinct is that they're a little bit closer than they are farther away.
Think he could be effectively Tavares Jackson?
Yes.
That type of player.
Yes. Yeah, I think he can be a Tavares Jackson type guy. For what that brings
not necessarily going to lose the game for you.
Right. And I think Baker coming here will be I think he'll be maybe a little bit better, maybe a game and a half better. But then what is the game and a half better that he's given you? Again, it would be your point on being more interesting. It would be. It's going to be a more exciting game and a half better than where you would be with Geno, where you're probably like, okay, I know how this story is going to play out, or it's a little more unpredictable there with Baker. But boy, I just don't know if he gets you more past a game and a half, especially with that reduced offseason, rehabbing his shoulder, no chemistry with the receivers. How much can we expect to get out of him? Now, you're right. He'll be hungry. He'll be balling out. He'll be doing everything he can to go earn that money. So you're going to be getting him,
the best version.
Yeah. I always like it's the what's the Rocky 2 where he's got, Mr. T's it's down in that dark, dirty cellar and he's just doing pull-ups, Rocky. So, it very well could. And look, the reports they keep percolating, Randall, these things just don't, it's not dying out. So, there must be some kind of smoke on this.
5-10 years ago, the old adage was the rumors you hear about are the ones that don't happen, right? The trades that you hear about are the ones that don't happen. Now it's the opposite. It's the ones that when you hear a guy linked to a team, more times than not, it ends up happening.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And the other thing, I think, okay, I don't have a ton to base this off, but I get the feeling I feel like his teammates like him. And you can point to OBJ, but it's like, look, this is the guy that, fought the kicking net, and like, consider the source on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
With OBJ. He's been what we've considered, more of a headache, I think, than Baker Mayfield. And he is brash. The commercials don't, he kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit. But it seems like he's been humbled a bit, right? And I think that's kind of what he needed. And I've just always been a Baker Mayfield fan.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't been able to get in that same place. I don't mind a cocky quarterback necessarily, but I also kind of lean towards, I need a guy that's a leader of men. And like when you're going to be that guy, that's the colorful guy that's grabbing his crotch and talking trash to guys across and running from police. And, you're going to be that guy. To then go and be the boring quarterback leader type, historically speaking, has been a tough pull off to make happen. You're sort of trying to play two different, you got to be more in one lane or the other. You can't really play both lanes. And that's my one worry with him as a leader a little bit, is that, with all of somewhat of the ego stuff that's there a little bit on that, how does that play into you being where humility needs to lie for a leader to happen? because a leader can't always be that brash, arrogant guy. He's kind of just got to sometimes be the Poindexter nerd type who's just getting things, who's just doing his job, leading things through, guiding guys along. And maybe this is the new age, Randall. I mean, we are in the age now of diva quarterbacks. So maybe this is a little bit of my old-minded approach, needing to update to the new lay of the land. That definitely could be that.
It just kind of seems like he's been humbled, like
I haven't. So here's the thing with the humble thing. If he's humbled when he gives that interview a month ago and they're asking him about where he's going to go, he's like, I guess, Seattle, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
If his attitude's humble, I'm really looking to myself, Seattle. That seems like the greatest place to go for Coach Carroll, to be there, to go be back, to have that be the next stop. Man, that'd be amazing. See how easy that is to say that versus what he said. And it's, again, if you're humble, like that's what you're thinking about, is how to say the right things at that moment, how to not come off as an arrogant prick at times. And instead that comes off when I hear that soundbite as a little bit of an arrogant prick. Like, you got no place to go in the NFL. There aren't suitors knocking down the Cleveland Browns door. If there were, you would have been gone already. That hasn't happened. So you need to understand that you're not Mr. I'm number one pick. Everybody wants me and loves me. I might not have, but another one chance at an NFL starting opportunity in this league, or I end up in Chase Danielville as a career backup. Now, and again, maybe I'm reading into it just too much, but I just didn't sense, and I have yet to sense on any soundbite we've heard from him or anything we've heard about, whether he's interested or not coming to Seattle, that there is that. I get it. I get that I gotta stow some of this away. It's gotta be just, I gotta be better in certain respects, but I don't want to seem like I'm throwing, again, guy's got some talent. You're right about him making the team more interesting, probably makes the team at least marginally better, to a degree, at least. How big a degree you and I might differ on that part, but he does take.
We've missed the playoffs, but we've missed the playoffs by a game before.
We have,
right?
There's no doubt about it.
We've missed the division by a game.
A game can make a difference. There is no doubt about it. A game can make a difference.
Remember, Hollister couldn't get an inch.
An inch and a half.
That lost us the division. So
it can come. It can come down to that for sure.
Those tipping points.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if it happens. I don't know. I would sign me up for it. Sign me up for Baker Mayfield.
And again, if the cost is low, I'm okay with it. Browns need to cover most of that contract. Absolutely. From my standpoint. They need to grab I'll pay like $4 million of it. They got to cover the rest because there's no leverage at this point on them to force us to try to pay half. Nobody's paying half at this point. And they can get that in like a 5th or 6th round pick and call it a day, and then we move on. So,
or they cut him and we sign him. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen.
No, because I don't think he wants to come here. That's the thing with this, Randall, is I think that he'll come here begrudgingly. If you don't think
he wants to come here, then why would we think that his agents are the one kicking up these rumors?
Because it looks like Seattle's interested, then another party's like, well, we were going to be interested, but only if we thought there was nobody else interested. So you're trying to make it look like there's an active market for him to get people to then have to light a fire. Like somebody might be thinking, maybe we'll think about Baker if Cleveland's still holding on to him and we get into training camp and we realize bump it a bump. Or maybe we'll think about Cleveland if we get an injury at the position and we'll call him up in week 2 if they still have Baker. Well, what if instead of that, but what if instead of that, you go, hey, he might be actually out to Seattle, who we had thought was uninterested, actually has interest here and that they're going to make this trade. Well, if we're serious about this and we have some interest, how interested are we really? Do we want to do this? And that's where I don't think it's working, Randall. Don't get me wrong. I think but here's the thing. They're in a desperate situation, right? Their quarterback has not been moved this offseason. He's stuck on this team that has told him, we're just not that into you, to the point that we would give a guy who's got a whole bunch of allegations out there, $230 million in guaranteed money. That's how much we don't like you. So, I think that they're doing whatever they can, understanding they don't have a lot of options or situations, and Cleveland could very well, because of their situation, try to just sit on him. And I'm sure that's also a part of this. Randall, is his people are probably also trying to do whatever they can to spin that cycle to not allow Cleveland to just try to keep them in a back pocket, because they're like, well, we might not have Deshaun, so we'll just, keep you here. I think he wants to he made overtures this week, Randall, about, what it would take for him to stay in Cleveland, and that Cleveland needed to essentially come and apologize to him. But he opened the door to me when he started speaking about that.
I read it the exact opposite. I basically think he said, when hell freezes over, I'll play here again. There was a lot that went into that soundbite up to that point. That basically it's over.
Yeah. And but if Cleveland came groveling back, and Cleveland could be in a grovelly state right now, if they come to find that Watson indeed does get the year suspension, then they're like, we got a Super Bowl built roster here. We don't have any other good quarterback option. Jacoby Brissett is not going to get it done. Is it a grovel away?
I think Jacoby Brissett's better than Geno Smith.
Not what I was reading on today on there was some stuff I was reading up to today that was like the recent history on Brissett has been really bad when he's gone out and played. It's been like, when I say bad, Randall, I mean like his the advanced statistically speaking has been putrid as far as Brissett goes. So I don't know if Cleveland looks at it and like, look, we could get to the Super Bowl maybe with Baker, if everything, we could get to the Super Bowl maybe if Jacoby. I don't think they look at that with Jacoby. I think that they know that the season's done if Jacoby's the guy that they're, running out there for 17 games, 18 games now.
Hey, we'll see. I got to take the rest off. I got to take the rest on the road here.
All right, brother. Hey, thank you for the $20 donation too, man. Hey, go Hawks. Go Hawks, man. I appreciate you. Have a good one, man. I will go ahead and post here into the chat if you guys want to jump on in here. I've got it into the stream. Just go ahead and click on the link if you do want to join up here in the Hawks Nest and talk a little bit. Right now, we do have open phone lines for you folks here on the edge of things. We are, of course, getting here closer, just a couple weeks out of training camp. So we will be, of course, ramping up kind of here as we go along with getting, more of the streams. I've been kind of taking it easy on June. I'm working on an upload right now. I'm almost done. This thing has been, I probably put as much effort into this next Hawks Nest episode as I put into anyone I've done, just on some of the graphics and things I'm trying to put into it with it. So thank you for bearing with me on that one, folks. But I do have my next Hawks Nest episode, which should be dropping here within just a couple days. I got a little bit more parts to film, and then we're going to pump that out. So that is on route to. Keep an eye out for that in your deal. Get you guys hyped up a little bit about the running game this year, and some of my upcoming outlook as it pertains to the running game goes. But let's see what you guys got to say in the chat here too. We can answer a few questions in the chat if anybody's got anything to say. But feel free if you want. Links there in the chat if you want to join on up. And it was great to hear from Randall. Thanks for jumping in there, Randall. Baker would fit with the run first year. He went off super run game, which we have with Penny and Walker. Then we have the same, if not better, receiving than Browns. I hate to say Baker could do work. It's possible, man. He could do work in animals. Like I was telling Randall, there's a contingent of the Seahawks fan base I've heard from that is very pro Baker, that would love to see him here, that thinks he is a pretty big upgrade over what you have in Geno. I get it. I can understand where they're coming from. Matthew says Baker was great before the noise came down on him and Odella. I never heard him referenced like that. He was. Yeah, he was indeed. Oh, we got a guy in here. What's up, Herb? How you doing, Herb?
What's going on, man?
Welcome to the Hawks Nest, man. I'm doing great. About yourself?
Hanging in there, enjoying this beautiful weather. Nice in Spokane.
The weather finally turned last week. We got some sunshine. It was all wet and just cold, but yeah, now it's finally beautiful. I'm loving life.
Yeah, no, we were dealing with the same thing in Everett.
Yeah. Spring. That's Pacific Northwest springs for you.
Yeah, you gotta love it. I mean, it's either Memorial Day for Seattle for it to get nice, it's gonna be miserable prior to Memorial Day, but yeah, just this year it went to 4th of July, so.
And then it gets super hot, right? That's what's gotten it. Now it's up to 90 degrees here on our side. So it goes from 55 to 90. It's like no in between.
Yeah, it's like 80. So I don't know, man. This whole Baker ordeal, it's actually I feel the best about it now than I ever have before. But yeah, I'm still maybe 20% on board with it kind of thing. It's I could understand he is a talented quarterback. We are kind of similar, except we do have an unproven offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
He did good things. I mean, the guy was legitimate hurt last year with a legitimate shoulder injury. Even though it was his non-affecting throwing arm, speaking from experience, man, shoulder injuries are the worst. Those things hurt. So
it's a little bit like the rib stuff, right? Where every movement you're doing is going to feel you're going to impact. And there's certain injuries where when it hits, your body is going to catch, right? It's gonna pull back, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can be as strong-willed as you want in your mind, and it's still gonna go, hey, don't do that. It's trying to protect you.
The whole throwing motion, I mean, that involves every part. You stick out your front arm so you can kind of aim, and you kind of slingshot it with the other. Like,
That's right.
yeah, it's gonna affect you. Yeah, other than that, like I'm saying, I'm still not 100% on board. But again, if we can get them 3-4 million, I don't see why not.
I feel like that's where the cost is down at this point, based on the reports that there's no market for him, and that it's been gone without said for a month now. If you want to offload this guy, you're going to have to carry most of the salary. We'll give you some relief, but you're not going to get a lot. And I think that, Herb, the thing with this too is we so often in sports, I think, get to black and white stages of things where there's just some, more often than not, there's these big areas of gray. And with Baker, it is a gray area. Whether is he awesome or does he suck? Well, maybe there's some marginal good stuff there to it, but there's a lot to this, from the shoulder injury you mentioned to the talent that I mentioned that he's had to work with there, to where he's going now, to what you have now. And it's part of what makes this, it's what makes it hard when you don't have a quarterback, and that this is where things get sticky and hard to assess on what the right approach is. 'Cause you're not really at the end of the day ever picking that guy that is the true, that dude. You're getting the guy that you're trying to kind of, if we can put him together as an amalgamation here, we can make this happen a little bit, and he'll be able to go.
Exactly.
I'm not anti-Baker, though. If we signed him, I'll be like, hey, we got a cat. What's this guy's name?
Hank.
Hank. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, he's a good kitty.
He's
almost got eaten by a coyote. I almost saw the coyote ran right by him. He jumped up in a tree. I was like, whoa. So I had to go save the kitty. Yeah, that would have been horrible. I love my cats. So
I had a night when I was living in Montana, and we were on about 25 acres, and my ex would always let the cat out. It just drove me crazy, because she'd leave her out for a day and she couldn't call her back in because the cat only was. So one night I go out, where's the cat? She's outside. It's middle of the night. Go out there. It's the dark of night, Montana. And when you go out in Montana, and we're in the forest, I mean, there's God knows what was out there, right? I call her, and she's orange, so you can see her even in the darkness. So I see this thing bobbing 200 yards out. Pop, 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 pop. It's coming at me. Pop, 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 pop. I'm like, and she's flying. I mean, flying through the darkness. I hear this screeching behind her, and I can't. And it's got a form like this. It's dark. I can't see. It's pure darkness out there, running. And she's coming at me with this thing following her. God knows I don't have a gun in my hand or nothing. I'm just sitting there like, okay.
What am I gonna do?
I can see that her eyes are like this big in the dark, running full speed. She breaks past me. The thing's coming. I just step in front of it. I still don't know what the hell it was. It breaks off and screeches off back into the distance, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, Jesus. I was like, honey.
Yeah.
Thank
you. All right. I know it's way too early. Who do you got this year? Who do you think, who's your top two AFC, top two NFC?
My top two AFC teams are going to be, I'm going to go with a little bit of a surprise, I think, on this one, in that I am going to pull them both out of the AFC West, and
okay.
I'm not. That's a hard one. Okay. Bills. I'm going to go. I know the Bills are the tough one to not, and way the Mahomes. I'd love to do 3 here, because I am in on the Chargers, but obviously it's Chiefs, Chargers, Bills, and then who are the top two? I think all three of those teams are so close together, and so much of differences from the other stack of teams in the AFC, in my opinion. And I just think the Chargers defensively, what they've done this offseason, obviously that young coach he's got to fix some of his decision making and what he did last year and how his approach went. But Mac on one side, Bosa on the other, and then J.C. Jackson as your man cover corner on the back end, along with Derwin James and Adderley, and they've got a variety of guys. Murray at the linebacker position. They're not just those guys either. And so I think that all comes together, along with that they've been able to build that offensive line slowly up around Herbert, which is one of my big, that's one of my big things that I harp on with those young quarterbacks. Get him that offensive line. You put that all together for me, and they're the one team I look at and I go, I'm big on Herbert, and that's why, to me, I put him right there with those other two teams.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I got Bills and Chargers in the AFC. So
I could see it. On that. And my only thing with the Chiefs that I think that I've got a bit of a high on them with is that the work they did last year on the offensive line. They took that whole last offseason and rebuilt it stem to stern, and that you usually have to wait a year to get the returns on that offensive line. And that makes me wonder they were one of the most efficient offenses last year with that offensive line. And now you give them a full year of continuity and whatnot. And I go,
Yeah.
there's more here where you could really see them come right back to
they got
prominence.
Zion now at guard. That's
Zion. They got Karlaftis too. Karlaftis
Yeah.
was one of the safest pass rushers in this last draft. As far as he maybe didn't have the ceiling of some of these other guys, but his floor at the top. I mean, his pass rush win rate in college was as good as anybody last year, and that's the one thing that transitions to the pro level that you can use as a calibrator to what they could be at the pro level. He's going to be ready to go. His power is going to work at the NFL level from day one. And you're right with Zion. As always, like, dude, it's. I just look at that and I go, that's going to be a good team again.
Yeah.
But those three teams, who do you got in the NFC?
I think Rams are going to do it again. And I don't know, Green Bay kind of dropped for me a little bit. I don't really see them having because it was kind of like a fire sale over there. They lost a lot of their offensive line. I don't think
Zadarius.
there's no Rodgers doesn't have any talent to throw to, or he has talent, but just not top tier. Definitely not Devontae Adams. I don't know. Bucks. I don't see Bucks. I think the Bucks kind of peaked and did all they can do. And there's always that rumor that Brady was going to go to Miami and take that show over there. That would have been crazy.
With Sean Payton.
Yeah, with Sean Payton and like part owner, part quarterback, which would have been nuts. The Rams are about the safest one in the NFC, and I don't know, man. No one really seems to pop too much to mind at the moment, kind of thing. Like I think everybody kind of regressed on, this side. So
we got three quarterbacks that are leading these three prominent teams you mentioned in the NFC that all have quarterbacks over 35 years old and older.
Yeah.
And certainly when it comes to Rodgers and Brady specifically, those guys have gotten into the really, really old stage of where they're at.
Yeah.
If we were to have
I don't see Rodgers being effective if he had some, Devontae Adams around him again. But
But your point on this is right. Look, through his whole year, it's through his whole career, it's been the development of internal wide receivers from within and always having a pretty good constant. So if Jordan Nelson starts to get old, I've got Devontae Adams, right? There's always another guy in that wings ready to kind of come back and they don't have that right now. They're trying to do it with Sammy Watkins coming in there and parsing it through a little, but it's not going to be enough. My question was, if those three guys have something happen to them, because there's a good chance you have those guys go down to something. Stafford was fighting through injuries last year. We knew a year ago during the Super Bowl run, Brady had a torn MCL in his knee. Rodgers has had torn calves and broken shoulders and whatnot. What would happen if you had because these three teams are so top heavy on those quarterbacks, if they lost those guys or two of those three were lost, do you think that impacts Seattle in their ability to come in and be competitive within the NFC? I'm not talking about winning Super Bowl if they got to the Super Bowl day, but to be competitive next year, would you see our team as a team that could be that way if two of those three dropped out? Or do you think that it doesn't really affect it?
I still think, I don't think we're as bad as like the national media portrays us. I still think, we're awful, but I can name you 10 teams I think are worse, but I still don't think that will be enough to actually make a difference for us. I don't even think we play Green Bay this year. Do we play Green Bay this year?
Nope. Last place schedule.
What's that?
We got that last place schedule this year.
Yeah.
I know we're not used to it, but
exactly. And Green Bay's never treated us very well anyway.
I'm tired of playing over there. I don't want to play in Lambeau anymore.
Yeah, no more. Yeah, heck with that stadium.
Well, we've played there like 15 times in 20 years. I'm like, I'm good. Good.
Over it. I don't know. No one in the NFC really sticks out to me, but
I think those three teams you mentioned,
a little bit.
You got the Saints could surprise, Cowboys could surprise, Eagles. I think are the one team.
Eagles.
They're the team lurking down there. That's man. They've put together a team.
I mean, Hurts, Jalen. I don't think he's all that proven yet, but heck, man, if he has a fair to middle into good year, I definitely see him going into the playoffs, just because the NFC East, I don't really think there's much happening there anyway. But Giants and Washington.
No. You always got to play against a couple of weak need opponents in that division. That's going to help you out. If I can go 4-0 against two, I got all the rest of my schedule. I got 4-0 off the back of that. That's going to be helpful. And they look. I say with those young quarterbacks, get them a great offensive line, get them playmakers on the outside, get them a running back. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Miles Sanders is your running back.
Yeah.
They brought back Kelsey as their center. Landon Dickerson they
Yep.
drafted, who's
Well,
playing good
they
left guard.
got Fletcher still on the other side. So
Lance Johnson, and they got Jordan Davis.
Bradbury. Did they pick up?
No, it's they got Bradbury and Darius Slay over there. So those guys are they could be a team that not a lot of people are expecting, and it's not. This will be good for us too, Herb, because we get to use this as like a baseline, right? Because I'm talking about trying to redo the blueprint from 2012. The Eagles are sort of playing that blueprint out right now, almost exact. They have a second round quarterback. You're trying to build around him. Can we get to overcome his limitations as a passer to do so? Because hers has limitations. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of success they can have, and if that's something to use as an example moving forward, as a baseline.
Okay, I got a good question for you. How about this? When you are in this process of rebuilding the team, do you want age and experience on one side of the ball, like I believe how we did it the first time? I think I heard Pete talking about, we had youth on the offense and experience or an age on the defense, but we messed it up. We should have flipped it the other way around. So, I mean,
Holmgren taught me this. This was a Holmgren lesson I learned because Holmgren came in as a general manager and drafted guys throughout that time period to do just like what you're saying. It's funny how the same mistake got made with sort of under Carroll. Did the same thing where he came in and he went offense heavy, and we'll go young there, and then we'll go old on the defensive side of the ball. And again, when they asked Holmgren about it after a couple of years, I think it was Levy ended up asking him about it when he had the general manager duties taken away, and he said, "What would you have done differently?" And same thing he said at that time. I would have gone older offensively, and I would have gone younger defensively, because you want those young guys defensively flying around and sustaining contact and not having those injuries that are going to pile up on the older guys. And then you want the advanced knowledge on the offensive side of the ball, so you can take advantage of the X's and O's chess match side of the things the younger player's not going to be able to tap into as much. Yeah. And I absolutely believe that that's a better pedigree to go. I would say the caveat I'd put behind that is that maybe I'm a little more open on having an older wide receiver or a running back who's just gotten so cheap but still good, but he's in that weird devalued place. I'm actually more in favor, even offensive line, I'll spend money there, but I like developing the young offensive line from within first as the first given component, and then everything else branches out of there a little bit, including quarterback and everything else. And then those can be the ones you go old at. But I like the young aspect in the offensive line, because then as they get older, expensive, I bring other young parts into, and that's not now I'm having to rebuild the whole offensive line. I've got 3 or 4 other parts that are now rolling, and it's sort of just, it makes it easier to me to keep the offensive line built up at a good stage, as opposed to where we kind of were coming into this offseason where I need a left tackle, I need a center, I need a right tackle. I'm going to probably need to do something with this left guard to right guard situation. So that's the place where I will be willing to go to young. Those guys can come in and be good players from the jump. Sewell was pretty good last year. Rashawn Slater was pretty good last year coming in. They don't always take as much of that development, but the rest of the offense, receivers, quarterback, running backs, tight ends, those would all be positions that I would certainly lean towards spending in free agency and bringing those in.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I think I got just one more thing for you, and I think I'll be good after that.
Appreciate you jumping in.
What's that?
I appreciate you jumping in.
No, totally. I've been watching for at least a year now, so finally get to see face to face, I guess, here.
Hell yeah.
Let me see here. Also, there was a running back who said that the running back position will dissolve in the next 5 years. Do you see that? I found that hard to believe with Pete, because he kind of plays like caveman style of football anyway, and I don't think Pete will ever get away from running the ball. So
I'm working on a video right now that the video I'm working on that's going to be my next upload is basically built around this argument that's being out there in process that running backs don't matter, that running backs are irrelevant, that this given the first opening 30 seconds is just pundits and analysts talking about how running backs are irrelevant. I think it's gotten oversold. I've been a guy that's been a long proponent of don't take a guy in the running back in the first round. Don't spend big money on a running back. And I still land in that place. But I think now it's starting. You saw this with the Kenneth Walker pick, which is why I wanted to create this video I did, which is it's gone too far to the other side, right? Things get overcorrected and it goes just a little bit too much. And I think that's where we've landed. Running backs will always matter. The talent's going to go to the wide receiver position now. Guys that are built like Deebo Samuel that 10, 15 years ago would have gone to the running back position in high school and college are going to be moved now to the receiver position more often than not. And they're going to be asked to do more running backy type things. but you are always still going to have the door open to the running back position. And still in Pee-wees, the star all goes to Pee-wees for me, Herb. Pee-wees, who gets the ball? You ain't having a guy slinging the rock at the Pee-wee level. It's going to be ground game. And all the kids are going to want to be running backs in that first part. And enough of that will carry down the pike into high school where you'll still get a good stable of those guys from a talent standpoint. That's been the big thing with it. There's always been a lot of talent. It's just always the going consensus is you can get that same similar talent in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. It doesn't have that because it's such a rich position of talent, because so many people gravitate to it, that they're the upper level athletes and the super speedy guys. It has more of that quotient than any other position in football because of that. So I don't think that speaks to that there's like nobody willing to play it or whatnot, or the teams are going to stop using it. You always have I don't get that there's no use for a running game. There always will be a use for a running game. There'll always be use for physicality and draining the clock and controlling the line of scrimmage. I can't see it ever being pushed.
Punishing the other team,
I can see how it can become reduced and the passing game becomes more and the rules open up for you to throw the ball more, but there will still be room for those teams that want to go at it, especially when you have so much of the rest of the league. You're zigging when they're zagging. Everybody else going to the finesse-based defenses that are going to have lighter guys that can cover. Well, we're going to run the ball at those lighter-based finesse guys, and we're just going to come at you and challenge you and wear you down. And you don't have the personnel to fit to what we do because you're going up against those Mahomes. You're fitting your personnel for the Mahomes, for the Herberts, for those pass-happy offenses, which is that's why I like the zig when the zag. Even if I'm not a big run-based guy, I still go, I can get it if everybody else is going this direction. It's like, if everybody, 80% of the NFL is doing a 3-4 defense, probably want to be that 20% going 4-3, right? Because it's going to be easier
for sure
to pull that personnel and to grab and put that team together versus competing with 80% of the other teams in the league for the same type of personnel you're trying to fit within your scheme.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Brandon, it was a pleasure, sir.
Pleasure here too, Herb. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, for sure.
Give me a record prediction on the way out.
Oh, maybe 6-11. I'm thinking. I don't think we're going to be much better than that. If we hit 7-10, if we do what we did last year, I'm going to laugh at Russ and be, I don't know, just be giddy and happy, I guess. So
how you see Russ doing in Denver?
I maybe 10-7. I think I honestly think that the Broncos are the second best team in the AFC West. I think the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill, that was a big part, and same thing with Matthew. Raiders, I mean, I like what they did, but at the same time, it's just not enough to
paper
compete.
Tigers.
Yeah, exactly. So, 10-7. I see him going to the playoffs, but I think it's one and done for him again. I don't know. I just don't have the knowledge and or the respect to think they're going to do much better. So
I think it's you're being very realistic on all your predictions. So I love it, man. Nobody's shot to the moon yet. Everybody's staying pretty much in the pocket. So you guys are being very level-headed.
One thing, I'm realistic. So
all right. I love that. Well, thank you for jumping on, Herb. I appreciate you.
No problem, Brandon. We'll talk with you later, man.
Talk to you later, brother. Have a good one. All right, so I got Ender. If you're listening on, if you want to pop on with your device, I can bring you on. It's just got no devices connected on your end, and I'll post in the chat here a link if you want to join in. We'll get a couple more people on in here as we get kind of wrapped on up. Megan with a $5 donation. Thank you, Megan. Very kind of you. She says, yes, Baker is an upgrade from Geno, but do we need the crap that comes with him? I don't think so. I think that you touch on one of the parts to me that factors in, and maybe Megan, I'm being unfair to Baker in this respect, but you get a vibe off a guy, and I'm very particular when it comes to quarterbacks, in that I think that there's been a very much a standard put in place of how a quarterback needs to go about playing the position and how they need to operate as a leader to get the most out of their particular teams. You can call it having to force a guy into being a bit of a robot if you want to call it. I call it the nature of the position. It's different. It's separate from every other position on the football field. You can't act like a receiver acts. You can't act like a cornerback acts. You've got to act like the leader of the football team. And there are just some times for me with Baker where I have little reservations about that. Now, I think Randall was speaking about this. There are teammates that have supported him and come out and do enjoy him on top of those, the Odells that come out that are going in the other direction. So it's not that this has been a story told of Baker that's absolutely concise, and this is exactly who he is. I think, as I say, it's a little bit maybe more of a gray area as it concerned him. And this is just my personal opinion with it. I'm not going to completely pull my hair out if we go out and get Baker outside of signing him to extension. That would make me pull my hair out. But bringing him in this year, as Randall was talking about, would definitely make it a little bit more exciting. A little more exciting. All right, let's get Ender in here. How you doing, Ender?
Doing good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, nice. So it's not a rebuild, but we're not good enough to compete. So all this talk about Baker, we're gonna have not a so good of an O line, So don't want to get our new guy beat up, or I don't know.
I agree. You touched on another point of this, right? Or there's a couple reasons why you can maybe point to a few reasons why it makes sense, but you can also point to maybe double the amount of reasons why it doesn't make sense. And you touch on one of them. How much better is he making you by coming to this team versus what you have, even if he's just marginally better as a quarterback, knowing that you have a team that is in basically a rebuild state.
Yeah, let's get Boye, dialed in. Let's get who's the other defensive guy?
Taylor
from last year. Yeah, Taylor. Let's get him dialed in. Let's see what our new CBs can do. Woolen, let's get everything dialed in before we try to make a run.
Mm-hmm. Especially because you understand with it too. You're with Baker, it's going to cost some draft capital, even if it's a 5th round pick. That's still something, and you probably are. Even if you're going to have to give some money to him, even if the Browns swallow a lot of that contract, you're probably still on the hook for about $5 million of it, somewhere in that neighborhood of it. And again, which we have the money to spend on it, but again, would you rather maybe roll that $5 million over into next year's cap? Would that maybe be a better approach? I'm more in line with you on this, Ender, and that's the direction I would lean with this, because you're not in the position this year right now. And if Geno surprises and the team surprises us, great. But let it be a year building up and building towards next season where, to me, you can really kick everything in gear.
Yeah, and then with the money off the books for Wilson, we're going to have a lot of money to spend on some good, positions that we need. Fullback, get a big fullback name.
A fullback. Well, I don't know. There's only one fullback I even know of in the league right now. Maybe like 2 or 3, actually, I guess. But I don't know. I think there are more 2 tight end sets in this offense we're running right now. So we're taking the fullback off the field for the 2 tight ends. I think that's where we lean.
I like fullback.
I like fullback too, man. I want to see a rejuvenation of the position. I miss fullbacks. I miss them going in the lane and clearing out linebackers and I formations and all that stuff. It sucks that we don't get to see him anymore. But
sorry for the short call, but I'm at work and my break was up. That guy took a long time. I got to go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ender. Sorry we missed you on that. But please do call on the next one. We'll be doing this a little bit more often. So please do come back in on it.
Go Hawks.
Hey, go Hawks, brother. Kiefer says fullback. Let's go. Hell yeah, Kiefer. I'd love to see a fullback. To me, a smart offense, the way that the Niners have been able to use Kyle Juszczyk and finding this guy that's this sort of, Swiss Army knife where he can do a lot of different things really well, and finding that unique kind of athlete that can do those things, to me, could be such a boon to an offense if you got to commit to using them right. Not to mention, I still feel like there is some effectiveness in running those I formation plays, having that lead blocker in front of that running back, because you're going to have offensive line play where one guy gets beat and somebody's going to get quick gap penetration, and having that fullback sometimes not only is the lead blocker to get up in the hole and take out the linebacker, but also to be the oh hell guy. Somebody got in the backfield. I got to hold this guy up just so my running back has at least a couple steps to try to do something as he gets up to the line of scrimmage. Can also be helpful from that standpoint of things. It gives you that guy just as that Secret Service agent for your running back position, which is sometimes really nice to have. But unfortunately, it's a position that's even more so than the running back position, starting to die out in the NFL. There are teams that don't even have a fullback on their roster. In fact, probably the majority of teams in the NFL right now don't have fullbacks on the roster, as it's basically has changed to 2 tight ends. There's more gained by offensive coordinators by the way they look at it in having a defense that you widen out versus condense down and have the fullback as the lead blocker. Because when you have 2 tight ends on either side, now you're sort of stretching that defense out. You don't allow them to compact down on the rushing lanes, which maybe frees some more stuff up for you in that aspect of things. Thank you, Megan, for the $5 donation. And yeah, I just think you're right on point with it, where it's just a matter of, is it worth it with all you get? I don't know that it is. It'll be interesting to see here, because if there is going to be a deal done for Baker Mayfield, it certainly should happen here within the next week, week and a half. You're not going to wait into training camp to make that kind of move. You're going to want it ASAP. But we'll see. They say it's pending. Chris Smith Scott says 8 wins. All right, Chris. That's where I was putting us out. 8 wins is where I got us sitting right now. Maybe I'm being optimistic. All right, so we will go ahead and wrap this up here soon. I'm going to be I'm going to post in the link here into the chat here. So if there's anybody who didn't get a chance to pop on the stream that wants to jump on in and talk a little Hawks here as we wrap it up, we'll go ahead and wrap this on up, and then I will be back over here we might be back earlier on here with Brendan around maybe 6:30 here if we wrap up a little bit earlier here. So we'll be bouncing over and doing the Brendan the B&B show here. Another half hour, which me and Brendan are going to be looking a little bit more further into the future here with this show. So we're looking into next off season and what we're anticipating for how this is going to play out for our Seahawks post this year. As I've listened to you guys here on the chat, we've had people pretty uniformly, and I got to give you guys props. You're so smart, and you guys are so level-headed. In your predictions, I see us at 5, 6 wins. Hard to see us past 7. We all are kind of anticipating where this year is going to go. And if it does go in that way that the majority of us kind of see it kind of sliding towards, I think we can then beyond that start to maybe anticipate some of those other moves then that you make moving into next off season, specifically as it pertains to, guys you're going to resign, how you're going to probably utilize your draft picks, what positions you're going to target. So we're going to dive into a few of that here in about another hour or so. If you guys want to tune back in on that side of it, just kind of get into some geeky stuff here as we get into late June. But I did want to talk about this because I think it's interesting in discussing what we feel like the approach is going to be by our Seahawks going a year into the future. You're going to have some money to spend. You're going to have 4 draft picks in the first 2 rounds. You're certainly going to have a lot of holes filled up that you're not going to have to deal with, right? We know left tackle, right tackle will be fine. Your starting running back position's good. Your receivers will be all right. Your tight ends will be good, right? That's just the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, you got your 2 edge rushers. Maybe your cornerbacks are set. Your safeties are set. At least one of your middle linebackers positions is okay. So while the team does still at this moment look a little bit far away, when we start to look at this a year out, we might actually come to find in how we're analyzing this. Oh, they're going to really be able to just kind of round off some pieces and parts here, and that it's not as far away when you get into next year, especially God forbid we get some real sparky type development from some of these young guys. Taylor takes another step forward, and maybe Mafe is really pretty good out the gate. Jordan Brooks slides into being a near all-pro type player at the middle linebacker now that he's been moved out of the will, which was not his natural position there, and that he'll be much more comfortable operating out of the middle linebacker position. We'll see. It will be interesting to see how it could potentially play out. But all right, so it looks like we got everybody through. I will post one last time. If you do want to come on in here right now, pop on in the chat. I am going to continue to make this a little bit of a regular part of the channel. So I don't know how exactly I'm going to do it. If I might just do it for members and whatnot, but we will continue to do these call-in shows from time to time because I'd like to get the pulse from you guys, hear where you guys are coming from, see what you guys are feeling and where you're at. But I appreciate you guys hopping in. If you do like what you're listening to here, you have to like the show, please do hit that like button, as well as we are on the road here to 8,000. I'd love to get there right around by training camp if we could, put us on a nice pathway for 10,000 by the end of the year, which is the hopeful long-term goal. So if you're not subscribed already, please do get subscribed. I really would appreciate it, and hit that like button for me. Thank you to all the folks donating in the chat here for the stream. Appreciate you. If you guys got any questions, feel free to ask them on through. TP1, Filler, how you doing? TP Filler says that we'd have to have a catastrophic injury for someone to trade anything for Gabe Jackson, like a bus taking out every guard on the team. Agreed, TP, because whoever trades for him is getting a guy who's definitely getting older into a part of his career, and he's not necessarily super cheap either. They're off the hook for the bonus money, granted, but yeah, I don't think you're in a state with that where if you're moving on from Gabe Jackson, you're basically releasing him. But it would take, maybe if somebody got it injured at the guard position. The other problem without trading Gabe is he's a right guard, and right guard is the easy one to get in the NFL. You can almost find that anywhere, even good ones. Teams are willing to offload those right and left. So if you have a marginal one, there's still not going to be much of a market for him, unfortunately. All right, so we will go ahead and wrap this up on this. Thank you guys for watching here today, and appreciate all of those who called on in. Let me know when you guys, if you're interested in doing another one of these in the future. Let me know also, let's get some comments on what you guys' predictions are. I'd like to hear for us to the fans out there what you guys think the record's going to be this upcoming season, where you see this team going. Just kind of get a pulse of the fan base and where you guys are at. I love to see the level-headedness, though. I love to see people being realistic. It's always a nice thing to see in this age of fandoms going crazy over their teams no matter what. So awesome on your guys' part. Thank you, Megan. Hit me up on that Twitter for we can get those details up on week 6. But thank you guys. You guys have a great day, and I will be back in about an hour from now with Brendan. So we'll be covering this there. Please tune on back in on that. Appreciate you guys, and please don't forget, I'll be back in an hour to remind you, but if in the next hour you happen to forget, in this just next hour, don't you ever forget. Don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.